G'day, I'm Grant McLachlan, the author of Sparrow. Between 2002 and 2008, I travelled the world interviewing as many members of Sparrow Force as I could find, starting with, obviously, my grandfather, who was a gunner in the 79th Light Anti-Aircraft Battery of the Royal Artillery, who reinforced Sparrow Force in Dutch Timor days before the Japanese invaded. Now that I've finished Sparrow, I've now realised that most of the veterans I've interviewed have now passed away, and that most of the relatives of those veterans didn't realise that I'd interviewed their father, their uncle, their grandfather. Now I've decided that I'm going to start releasing these interviews online. And I've started the first interview I've decided to release is in fact the very first people I interviewed besides my grandfather. Now this is the interview I had with Clyde McKay and Lloyd Harding. Now Lloyd Harding, at the time of me creating this introduction, is still alive and well in Hobart, and these two are the first people I interviewed as part of my research into Sparrow. So it's a fascinating interview. It's rough as guts because it's the very first interview. Poor lighting, poor sound, you name it. Even Jim Kane walks in. But the point is that after I interviewed these guys, I rang them up. I visited them several times again at the next couple of years' reunions, and it's out of their enthusiasm. The story of Sparrow just wouldn't be Sparrow. So hopefully you enjoy this interview. I hope it brings a few smiles to your face. Rest in peace, Clyde, you're awesome. Here's the interview with Clyde McKay and Lloyd Harding. Cheers, bye. Do you remember joining the 2nd 40th?
Well, I was a reinforcement. I was one of the originals, and I joined the 2nd 40th in Darwin in August 41.
Okay.
There was about 100 of us went up to replace 100 undesirables they got rid of. That's really, in fact, there were some really tough ones they got rid of. But they were sick of being up there. They wanted to get in another unit, see. But we were so unlucky. We had the boat waiting to bring us home on leave in December 41.
Yes.
Pearl Harbor happened, and it took us to Timor, and we the survivors got back in October 45.
Yeah.
So it was a fair while between drinks, wasn't it?
Yeah. And were you in the same intake? Same intake. Did you join the 2nd 40th?
No, I was one of the originals.
Oh, okay.
I joined on the 1st of July 1940.
Wow.
And the battalion was just formed then.
Did you volunteer?
Oh yeah,
yes,
we're all
everyone's
volunteers. All volunteers.
All volunteers.
Yeah. So what was the reason for you joining up? It was like...
Well, for a start, I was a merchant seaman, a qualified AB, and I had a master's ticket.
Okay.
The Navy advertised for some ABs, and I went along, and I told them, I should have told them a lie. They said to me, "What are you doing now?" And I told them the ship I was on. They said, "Well, you better stop there." So I came ashore, and at this particular time they were building a floating bridge at Hobart. And I worked on that for 3 months and then joined the army.
Okay.
Got away from the sea altogether. I went back to sea after the war.
Yeah. So when you joined, did you think you were going to go and fight the Germans?
Well, not exactly. It was just a matter of joining, you know. You didn't know who you were going to fight. But then when we were up Darwin, we practically knew that the nips were coming in. There were rumours around, you know.
Okay.
There you go.
Did both of you join because your friends were also joining, or simply because?
With me it was.
Okay.
What they have what they'd call the national service, what used to be. Those days they had all volunteer service, and I was in the light horse.
Oh, the famous Australian light horseman.
Yes,
okay.
the Ross Troop of the light horse.
Wow.
I was in that, and about 7 or 8 of my coppers out of that joined up. And I wasn't 19 then, and my parents wouldn't give their consent.
Okay.
And finally, when I worried and got their consent, these other chaps had all left, got into a artillery crowd.
Okay.
And when I got in there, it was 2nd 40th, the infantry, so
Yeah.
that's what I went into.
So all of you, a lot of the people who joined up in the 2nd 40th, they're all 18?
I was a bit older, but
I was 19 when I joined.
Mm-hmm.
I was 23 when I joined.
I heard that Bronk was 17.
Yeah, we had some reinforcements join us in Timor in January of 42.
Mm-hmm.
They were 17 and 18.
Mm-hmm.
They hadn't fired a shot. They hadn't loaded a rifle.
Mm-hmm.
And they came as reinforcements to a very highly trained battalion, and we were a well-trained battalion.
Okay.
It wasn't fair to them, it wasn't fair to us.
Yeah.
Now, Lloyd, you tell them what your occupation was when you joined the army.
I worked with my father. We had a nursery and market garden at Capitulation.
Yeah.
And when I put my application in to join,
Mm-hmm.
it came straight back, essential service,
Mm-hmm.
market gardening.
Yeah.
So the parents were very, very pleased about that, because I was knocked back. I went and saw another old returned chap from the First War there, and he knew I wanted to get away. He said, leave it for a fortnight, 3 weeks or so. He said, make another application. But he said, don't put in as a market gardener, you won't be telling a lie, put yourself down as a florist. I did that, and word came back within a week, yes, you're accepted.
The florist, we reckon he was there to make the wreaths.
That's when I got in. I was over 19. Then I was 19 in the April, and I got in July.
It's too good a chance to miss, wasn't it?
Were you given much advice from the old World War I vets? Did you receive any advice before you joined the army, or through your training?
Yes, a lot of them reckon it was a great experience. You'll never regret it,
Mm-hmm.
because their war was a different war altogether than what ours was,
Mm-hmm.
with equipment and everything. Although our equipment was ancient,
Mm-hmm.
but there was no jungle warfare in there turn out like we had.
Okay. But you're from Tasmania, so were you used to fishing and hunting in the bush and so forth?
Oh yes, I grew up, I served my time in sail across Bass Strait,
Mm-hmm.
things like that, and we were pretty hardened up, you know, and I do think that we survived in the jungle by our tough upbringing.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
There were a couple of Victorian people in your battalion?
Oh, quite a few.
Well, first of all, the 40th were to be a Victorian battalion,
Mm-hmm.
and to have 2 companies of Tasmanians.
Mm-hmm.
But they had so many volunteers during those months or so that they decided to make it a Tasmanian battalion, and retain the Victorians, about 150 that were already in the battalion. But as I say, they were only to be, I think, A and the headquarter company were to be Tasmanians,
Okay.
and the rest were to be Victorians. That's why we finished up in the 23rd Brigade.
Okay.
The other 2 battalions on the brigade were 2 Victorian battalions, the 21st and 22nd.
Okay.
Now they were unlucky like us.
Mm-hmm.
The 21st was sent to Ambon,
Mm-hmm.
the 22nd to Rabaul, New Britain, about 4,500 miles away.
Mm-hmm.
They formed us into a force, so we were Sparrow Force.
Mm-hmm.
Second 21st we went to Ambon, Gull Force,
Mm-hmm.
and the 22nd were Lark Force.
Oh, okay.
So that was we were the 23rd Brigade of the 8th Division.
So when you joined up and you did your training at Darwin and you found yourselves on Timor, how many of your original friends that you joined up with were there next to you in Timor? You said that you joined...
Yeah, yes, all my platoon was with me on Timor.
Okay. What
All
number?
the ones that I was in Brighton camp with in the 1940s.
Okay. What company were you in?
Headquarter company, 6th platoon.
6th platoon. And who was in charge of your...
Lieutenant Frost.
Frost. Okay, excellent. And...
I was C Company, 15 platoon, and Captain Burr was our
Captain Burr.
Burr.
Yes.
B-U-R-R.
Yeah, got Burr here, yeah.
Yeah.
My first officer was Lieutenant Gatenby.
Gatenby, yep.
But they were landowners out here at Cressy Way, out
Okay.
here, and I think his father, somebody passed away, and he was called back to settle up the estate,
Mm-hmm.
and they gave him so many months leave to go home and get things fixed up.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Lieutenant Frost took over our platoon, and when Gately came back, he went to a rifle platoon.
So he was in charge of B Company?
He's the one, yes, he got killed.
Yes, yes.
Yes, well, Burr was CO of C Company, but my own lieutenant was Lieutenant Sharman,
Okay,
Trev Sharman.
excellent. So, so when you first arrived on Timor, how did you arrive? Did you arrive by, obviously, ship or
We
plane?
went across on the Zealandia, the ship that was waiting to bring us home for final leave from Darwin.
Zealandia.
We left Darwin on the 10th of December, and we arrived at 10 o'clock on the 12th of December.
It's only just 2 days away.
It's only 300 odd
Yeah.
mile.
Anchored out in the bay,
Yeah.
climbed down a rope ladder with all your gear, your rifle, your kit bag, your bayonet and everything,
Yeah.
down this rope ladder,
Yeah.
into a bit of a longboat thing, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
Mhm.
Go in, and they couldn't get too close into the shore.
Mm-hmm.
Around about the last 100 yards, you have to hop over the side and wade ashore.
Okay. So were you greeted by the locals or by the Dutch or?
Well, we didn't know what to expect.
Okay.
There's the locals, the natives came out
Mm-hmm.
and want to carry your kit bag.
Mm-hmm.
And the cunning cows, halfway through that, put their hand out, they wanted money or something.
Yeah.
If you didn't hand it up, they'd go to dump your kit bag.
Okay. Were they like short little people or what were the locals like?
Yeah, they weren't big in build, were they, the Timorese?
Yeah. Were they shy at all?
Not shy, but
No.
they were treacherous like they were pro-Jap right from the start.
Okay.
Whoever was on top, well, no, they were there for them.
I blame the Dutch for that because they gave them a pretty rough spin of it. Whereas in East Timor, the Portuguese were there and they were pro-Portuguese there.
Mhm.
They were anti-Dutch and anti
Yeah.
everything other than colour.
Mm-hmm. So you were down at one end of the island, and Gulf Force were down at Dili.
Yes.
So did you ever meet with them? Did you ever travel at all?
Never, no.
Was it? What was it? Did you ever journey to? I remember one of your friends over there. He actually went bush.
Well, no. Well, the ones that was known, the ones that got off Timor, there were only 2 of them through action. The others that joined up with the independent company were fellas that had were in our base camp at Chaplain.
Mm-hmm.
They, when the things surrendered, all fit men from Chaplain, that was our base hospital, they were to proceed to a place called Atamboa.
Okay.
That's right up on the border with East Timor.
Okay. It's pretty dense bush.
In the
Jungle.
place, there was only one main road on the place, and it was pretty mountainous, it's very rough country. There was
Yeah.
only the one main road, that was the trouble there.
So how did you acclimatise to Timor when you first arrived?
Oh, we'd been such a long time in Darwin.
So it's pretty much the same conditions.
Yeah,
Yes.
Did
We were fit, we were really fit. The heat didn't worry us
yeah.
or anything like that. We were really fit.
So they've got coconut plantations up in Darwin, do they?
Oh yes.
Yeah. So it's very similar terrain.
Yes, the terrain, but the temperature's about the same. It's
Okay.
fairly flat around Darwin.
So what was the wildlife like? Did you bugs or mosquitoes or?
Mosquitoes, any amount.
Any
But
mosquito.
we did have mosquito nets when
Okay.
we went over there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we had mosquito nets in Darwin, did we?
Oh yes, because poor old Jimmy Stanley that
Oh, that's
time.
right, yes.
Mm-hmm.
A funny one, when we were in Darwin, we were in tents there.
Mm-hmm.
One of our mates had worked in the office mess through the day,
Mm-hmm.
and he brought some pudding down. So there's 4 fellas in a tent. Mosquito nets around, they had what they could, and during the night, poor old Jimmy Stanley heard a noise, and there's big lizards there. They stand about 4 feet high. If you chased them, they'd run up you to get clear of you, know.
Yeah.
Poor old Jimmy lifts his mosquito net up to shoo this thing off, and he gets under the mosquito net with him in the pitch dark. him trying to get out and the lizard trying to get out. Gee, he was scratched. Nearly wrecked the tent.
They can be 3 foot or 4 foot long.
Oh,
you know.
yeah, so and they'd stand up on their run, they'd run faster than a man.
Yeah, almost gallop.
But would you see these during the day?
Oh yeah.
Oh yes,
yeah.
yes.
Okay.
We were building, our last job on Timor before we went, we were building galvanised huts and we were putting concrete floors in, so they had these utes go out and bring in a lot of rubble, you know, to mix with the concrete. So we were on this truck one day and we caught one of these lizards, put him on the truck, and when he got back to the boys, when he came out, by God, he did cause a commotion. We were up to all those tricks, all a bit of fun.
Were there many, was it true that at night all the jungle comes alive?
That's the only time you see anything is at night. They're mostly nocturnal.
Yeah.
When we were in Thailand, up on our jungle area, we were in tiger country up there, and we used to have to keep fires going all night. And quite often you'd see tiger tracks on the dust of the road outside, but they wouldn't come in where there's any fire.
Yeah.
So you had to be safe that if you didn't have a fire, perhaps the tiger would come in and get somebody, you know.
Yeah.
Oh yes, it was pretty, and plenty of wild monkeys up there. You'd hear the monkeys in the trees.
So you had scorpions as well?
Oh,
Yes,
scorpions,
yes.
they were as big as crayfish.
And hornets were a shocking thing.
Pardon?
Hornets.
Oh, okay. Ooh. What, how many stories about the hornets?
That keeps, we were there one time with a bit of a ute going through the scrub, and they knocked the hornet's nest down, and by gosh, he certainly cleared the arena. That keeps stinging you, you know.
Yeah.
Chase you.
Okay. So did you swim every day, or did you get the chance to swim? And
in Darwin, we used to go out to a place, Berry Creek, wasn't it? And we used to go there for a swim. We were too busy putting up defences and that on Timor. See, our company, we were on Penfui Airdrome.
Okay.
The only thing is that when we were taken prisoner, the Sapa Bazaar, that was right on the beach, and a lot of blokes learned to swim there.
Oh, okay.
They didn't stop us going in the water, and that was our salvation, I think.
Okay.
Really.
Yeah. So I was wondering, you were based in Penfui Airfield.
Yeah.
What was the airfield like? Was it just a strip surrounded by jungle, or?
Oh, jungle all round. It was a fair size airdrome.
Yeah.
And they had blooming stupid pillboxes on it. Well, I don't know what they'd have thought we'd have done in action if we'd have manned these pillboxes.
What were they like?
Oh, just
A cement structure.
Just a cement structure with blooming big openings in it, you know.
Yeah.
Oh God, I don't know what would happen if you'd ever been in an air raid. There was no convenience, there was no water, no nothing. You'd have died.
There's just a concrete box,
Yeah,
just...
with an opening and a...
How many of them were there?
Oh, about 4, I think. But I can remember.
Is that just along one side, or on each corner?
In the middle of the drone.
In the middle of the drone, okay.
Useless damn things, typical Dutch stuff, you know.
Oh, so the Dutch built.
Oh yes, they were useless twits.
And what were the other buildings that are on the Penfui Airfield? Were there
Well,
like hangars?
what happened when we got there, they had accommodation built for them. There's nothing worked. The toilets weren't working. We had to build slit trench toilets and things like that. You know, the Dutch didn't have it finished properly.
And there were an American bomb squadron there, wasn't there? Based in Penfui?
No.
No, they were Dutch, I think. Dutch Air Force. No, Australian Air Force.
Australian.
Australian
Lockheed.
Air Force, yeah.
Lockheed
Hudson
Hudson.
and the old, what was the other old one they had?
Mostly Lockheeds, and
Yeah.
we were guarding planes of a night, and 2 days before the Nips landed, they all shot back to Australia and left us to it after us guarding the planes.
So were they running bombing raids of Java, or what were they doing?
General
there?
stuff round about observation mostly.
Observation, like a reconnaissance, okay.
But there was a terrible thing happened there one day. There was one Lockheed Hudson taking off. They were taking stores up to Ambon. And I think they took off a bit too steep and they crashed on the drone on their back, and the whole lot were killed.
Oh.
And we couldn't get anywhere near them, and they buried them in a common grave in Cape Bean, about 8 of them on it, I think.
Okay.
I got one of their hat badges and I carried it all through POW life with me. And a few years ago, I went up and gave it to the museum of the Air Force in town and gave them the history of it, and they were so pleased, you know.
Excellent.
I thought it was they were the ones who had it, but I carried it all through POW life with me.
Yeah.
We had a couple of crashes there, remember? One early one morning in a storm.
Yeah, the lightning struck it in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The whole lot were crashed, you know, the whole lot were lost.
Yeah.
There was no happy memories of Penfrew.
The old Lockheed Hudson wasn't a fast plane at all.
No. But you were a headquarter company, so you were on Force Hill, weren't you?
Yeah.
You were next to Penfield Airfield as
Where were you stationed?
I don't quite catch what you're saying.
Where was your camp?
My camp was in Penfield itself.
It was in Penfield, yeah.
Until it actually, two nights before it finally broke.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had to go over way out a back road with the vehicle,
Mm-hmm.
find camouflage for it,
Mm-hmm.
and stop there.
Okay.
And there wasn't a great deal of distance between me and the headquarters, which were in a cave type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
If they wanted the vehicle, they sent a runner over, and I had to go all the way back down through the village, back up through the drone to get up to the headquarters.
Okay. Yeah. So, were you stationed? I mean, there was a couple of companies at Fort Clapperlima and
No company.
Chaplain.
That was a camp at Clapperlina was the heavy battery.
Heavy battery and fortress engineers.
Yeah.
They were part of the force, Sparrow Force, but they weren't 40th.
Okay.
A and B company at the beach
Mm-hmm.
near where near where the POW camp was, wasn't they?
Mm.
Don company were at Babo,
Mm-hmm.
and C company we were at the header.
So, what was Atrocities? What was there before it became a POW camp?
Oh, just a native
A
village.
bit of a village and a bit of a beach. There's a bit of water there and things like that. But
Okay.
as far as we were concerned, that was a lifesaver because we were allowed to. It was among coconut palms,
Uh-huh.
and they put up bits of huts for us, and the outlook put up huts, and we were right along the water's edge, which was our salvation,
Mhm.
really.
It was our own wire they ran round us.
Yeah. Were you told to prepare gunpowder and explosives around the airfield and
We
all
had
these
no-
places?
We had nothing like that sort of.
No.
There was the engineers had to do that too.
Yeah. So, did you see the engineers before the Japanese land rigged the airfield and stuff?
Oh, they destroyed a lot of drums of petrol and that, didn't they?
Yeah.
They did all the damage they could, but we were limited on the amount of equipment we had.
Okay. Yeah.
All the flying staff left a couple of days beforehand,
Mhm.
and all they left was their ground staff.
Okay. Yeah.
And the ground staff are lucky because they went across Timor to an enclave on
Mhm.
in West Timor that belonged to East Timor,
Mhm.
and they were there for some time, and they were taken off by a sub.
Okay.
And I'll tell you how unlucky you can be. One of our fellows, a fellow named Clements, was a wireless whiz, and he was sent to the Air Force, and he went with them.
Mhm.
Well, while they were waiting to get off to there, they were sleeping in an old hut, and they got up this morning, he's dead. A blooming snake had bit him.
So there's snakes on the island as well?
Oh, yes.
Snake bit him, and they didn't know what was wrong with him. Then they found the snake bites on his arm.
I never knew there were snakes there. What sort of snakes were they?
I don't know, but this one was a deadly one, killed him.
Oof.
We used to see tree snakes, a non-venomous snake,
Okay.
things like that.
What colours were they?
Well, they were greenish, what we
Greenish,
said, the
tree
tree
snake.
ones.
Yeah.
I don't know what sort of snake this was. They didn't see, but they saw the marks on his arm.
Yeah.
This would kill him.
Mhm.
Can't you be unlucky?
Yeah.
Just asleep and the darling bit him.
You had doctors on the island, like Captain Arnold and Neve. Do those names ring a bell? Neve?
We had Dr.
Captain Neve?
we had
Dr. Poitevin,
Yeah, okay.
Brown.
Dr. Brown,
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Hecking was
Mhm.
the Dutch doctor.
Okay. Yeah. Did the tropical ulcers, did you get any tropical ulcers before the Japanese landed?
Not too many tropical ulcers, but a lot of them got infected sores off that blooming coral rock. See, we went there in short trousers.
Okay.
Can you imagine getting into action in a hurry on a ground that would tear the skin off you? I was dreadful.
So you're wearing shorts?
Short sleeve and short trousers.
Yeah.
Yep, with the pockets on the front, and you had your hat.
Oh, I had a hat. That was their main thing.
Yeah. Now, your hat, did you always wear both sides down, or
Down in the tropics.
tropics.
In the tropics, you wore both down.
The only time you wore it up was if you were marching with your rifle
Okay.
on your left-hand side, because, but other than that, our hats were the best hat ever.
Yeah.
They were good for the wet weather.
Were they Cooper's? Were they were
Coopers.
Were they Cooper's?
I think they could have been.
Could have been made by that company.
They were a
They
beautiful
were
hat.
the
I mean,
best
weather
hat
didn't
ever.
affect them, water didn't affect them.
What was your pungaree? Was it a folded one, or just the straight felt one?
The
Was it like?
folded one.
Was it pleats?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, yes, and the pleats in it.
Okay, excellent. And you just had the straight star cap badge, the Australian
We had the
Commonwealth
rising
Forces.
sun.
The rising sun, yeah.
Left-hand side.
Okay, on the right hand side. Okay. So
But I'll tell you what was funny. We arrived there and we still had our winter gear with us.
yeah.
And when we were stationed, there was an wireless station on the airdrome, and we'd be guarding that. And this little native used to come up some days and give us some bananas.
Mm-hmm.
So one real hot day, I gave him my winter gear. If you could have seen him marching down the road in long johns and this thick singlet, he was the best dressed bloke in Penfield. I wish I'd had a camera. Been something. Got rid of it.
So, when did you know that the Japanese were coming?
Oh, they gave us about 12 hours notice.
When was that? Was that?
On about the 18th.
So you said that there was the Japanese were bombing Kopang before my granddad's battery arrived.
Oh yes,
Oh,
yes.
yes. And then the fighters would, at 9 o'clock every morning, the Zeros would come over and give you a bit of a touch-up.
Mm-hmm.
26th of January was our first air raid.
On Australia Day, that's why I with Jimmy
And then
Kane
every-
was my driver, you see, and
Uh-huh.
I was the first to go into action against the Nips.
The 26th of January.
26th
26th
of
of January was the
Australia
first air raid.
That was the same day that General Wavell sent made the decision to send my granddad's battery to Timor.
There you are.
And then every morning thereafter, between 8:30 and 9, you could
You
be
could
absolutely
set
sure
your
of
clock
it.
on.
So what, they've been coming all the way from Borneo.
No, they were coming from what was that little place they had up there? They had a strip on it, one of the islands somewhere.
Okay.
Could have been Bali, I think.
Sarawak or something like that.
Somewhere there, but
Yeah.
anyway, they were regular, and that's why I say when they sent those reinforcements to us, it wasn't fair to them or to us, because you couldn't show them anything, because you'd have your eye in the sky expecting a rain.
You had Bren guns and Lewis guns.
No Brens, we had the Bren gun equipment,
Yeah.
we had old Lewis guns and Vickers.
Yeah.
They gave me a Tommy gun,
Yeah.
rate of fire 400 rounds a minute. They give me 5 rounds to learn how to use it. Fortunately they fired single shot too, but they were a useless thing.
Were you a good shot?
You wouldn't hit a barn if you was inside the door shut with those Tommy guns. I was all right, 3 but
They just
Tommy guns, they ought to have kept them with those blooming gangsters in America.
But most of the people in the 2nd 40th had like hunting and fishing experience.
A lot of country fellas,
Yeah.
yes.
So you're all pretty good shots.
All pretty good shots.
Yeah.
We had one bloke with us, Tommy Unsworth. He wouldn't have hit a barn if he was inside the door shut. But he was an exception. And it was funny with poor old Tom. He was in our company, and that first morning of the air raid, he didn't have his rifle with him. He said, "I wish I'd had old Betsy with me. I don't know what he'd have done with it. Betsy was his rifle."
So you guys, you saw the planes flying over. Did they dive?
Oh yes, I
Oh,
had.
yes.
So you could see the pilots pretty well.
There was no height with them, no.
No.
You'd see him looking down at you.
So were you're obviously firing your guns at them. Did you hit them?
Oh, you wouldn't hit them with a Lewis gun, but the main thing is you had to go at them.
You had to go at them.
There.
They were fast.
Yeah.
Those Zeros were a fast plane.
They were the best plane in the air at that particular time of the war.
Yeah.
They didn't realise just how a good a plane. They were, you know, they were something.
Did you ever see the reaction of, say, Leggett to all these raids? Did you see him very often?
Oh yes.
Yes. Was he very much? He met his troops every day, or?
I'll only remember old Bill Leggett when we took a Sowie Ridge. He's marching up there with a bright yellow shirt. I don't know why they didn't knock him off.
A little 38 revolver was all he carried.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's going to do with that.
And he had his officer's hat. He always wore that.
Yes,
He had his tin helmet on.
Tin
helmet.
This bright yellow shirt. He stood there like a...
You mean it was a desert khaki shirt?
The bright yellow one.
Yeah.
A civilian shirt he had.
A civilian shirt.
I don't know where he got
No
it.
epaulets or anything like that.
No.
Just, so you wore a banana-coloured shirt.
Yeah.
See, he came from Rebel to us.
Oh, okay.
He'd been over there, and as the 2IC.
So he got on. Did you get on pretty well with him? Was he a very popular
he was
chap?
all right, but he couldn't have run a chook rattler at church fair. Fair dinkum.
It's back in the
First World
1914-18
War. He thought a
warfare.
strip of barbed wire would stop a tank in it. Fair dinkum.
So was he respected by?
Oh yes, but I can always remember old Bill Leggett when we arrived at Singapore.
Yeah.
We were there in clothes that we'd been taken in action on. You can imagine the state that this is in January '43,
Yeah.
and old Leggett came marching down the road with Lieutenant Gordon. They were done up like pocket office clerks. They were beautiful. They even had a red and white tab in their sock like Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
And there we were in rags. The
But
bloke with him, Gordon, he was Flash Gordon from then on.
Because he was sent off the island at one stage, wasn't he? And you must have caught up with him.
Lloyd finished up earlier than we did.
Yeah.
He was sent to Timor before we were.
Yeah.
I was the second lot to leave Timor.
Okay.
The officers, some of the officers and a few left first.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Lloyd in his mind.
And we left.
We got rid of the rubbish.
That was when Major Dempsey, the Jack Dempsey of my granddad's battery, was the highest ranking officer.
Yes, he
Okay.
was a good fellow.
Okay. So I was wondering, did you ever meet anyone like the Raja of Amarasi?
Oh God, no, I can't even spell it.
Okay, what about Dr. Eiseman? He was an assistant resident at on Bar OEM. BAAOEM. I don't know how to pronounce that.
No, don't know it.
No, okay, he was like one of the residents. Did you ever meet the Dutch governor
No way, no.
on Timor?
No, we met a few Dutchmen there. But
Okay. Did you ever meet Van Straten? No. Okay.
Van Straten, yes.
Lieutenant Colonel Van Straten, he was Dutch.
Yes. I think he had charge of the northern part of the island up near the
Yeah.
Portuguese border.
That's right, yeah.
Because I had to go up there on reconnaissance with the colonel,
Mm-hmm.
and we stayed in his residence.
Okay. Were the Dutch... What did you think of the Dutch?
Well, the Dutch, they were German with their guts kicked out. They didn't fire a shot on Timor.
They didn't fire a shot?
One casualty, one of our blokes shot them. They looked like nips in their gear.
Oh, because they were wearing greens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can imagine they blended with the thing, and we stood out like nails on a gate, you know.
Yeah.
Khaki among the green, it was dreadful.
You said that during the action they slipped away
They
during the night.
slipped away
Never
during
saw
the
them.
night, didn't see them. They didn't fire a shot.
But it was their island, wasn't
Their
it?
island, yeah.
Their
I had a
island.
lot of native troops, I think, too. There was only a sprinkling of white Dutch there.
Mm-hmm.
The colonel was a darkie, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Colonel Dedica, wasn't it? Dedica, yeah.
Yeah. But obviously the Timorese, they didn't think much of the Dutch.
Oh, the Dutch give them a rough spin, I think, really, and that's why they were against us too. And it was
Okay.
white was.
So apparently there were quite a few Timorese prisoners on Timor. The Dutch imprisoned quite a few of them.
Oh, could have been.
Okay, yeah. So when did you find out about reinforcements? You guys were you're on the island, 2nd 40th, and the heavy battery at Clapalima, and the engineers and so forth, and headquarter company. But when did you find out about these reinforcements, these 2 battalions that were...
Turned back.
Yeah, they turned back.
Oh, yeah. Sometime in February, because they were bombed on the way. They dropped bombs and they turned back, which is just as well, because they'd gone in the cooler the same as we were.
So when did you hear about this ACAC battery being sent from Batavia?
Oh, we heard of it when we saw them come ashore.
Oh, okay. So it's the first time you heard about it.
First we heard of them.
I think the Legate had made, asked for air support, you know, for
Yeah.
ACACs.
Yeah. So.
Next thing they landed at 10 hour.
10-hour, yeah.
Yep.
And that's where the Nips landed. And there's old Legate thinking they were going to land near B and A and B company, and they came ashore where we used to unload the ships. Struck me, I don't know.
So you saw this ship arrive, and was it a big ship?
Oh, we didn't see them. Didn't
Okay.
see the ship. They were out of our range to see. We didn't know they were coming.
Oh, do you mean the one that came from Java with the?
With the ACAC.
I can't remember. No, it wasn't a tremendous big ship. No.
Did you see it being unloaded or anything like
Oh,
yes,
yes.
I was around there every day.
Yes, we were around there and saw them.
And
Yeah.
they were being peppered the same as we were from
Okay.
the air.
that? Yeah. I heard that the crew abandoned ship and swam ashore and disappeared into the jungle.
Well, I think the captain hurried things up a lot to get the boat back out of the way again.
Okay. Excellent.
I
Yeah.
don't think they unloaded all that they had on board.
Yeah. So when do you remember first meeting the ACAC battery? You remember seeing them unloading? Were they had their white
Yes.
hats?
Oh, yeah, we saw them go with the tiger hunters, yeah.
With a pith helmet on.
Yeah, fifth helmet. We call them tiger hunters. But they were a good lot of blokes. We got on very well with them.
They came into Penfield, if I remember.
Yes, we had a couple of them around here.
And then they were allotted to the various areas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were obviously wearing they said that they were wearing those puffy shorts.
Oh, they were Bombay bloomers, we used to call them.
Yeah. And what were their shirts like? Were they just long sleeved and?
Yes, they had long sleeves, not like our short sleeve things.
So they looked like they're dressed for the desert, obviously.
Well, the thing was, the story goes that our colonel sent back and wanted to get gear like the Dutch troops there, you know.
Yeah.
And the word he got back was, what's good enough for the troops in the desert's good enough for the troops in the jungle. That's the word he got back from our own staff in Melbourne, mind you.
Oh,
They ought to
okay.
have been there, oughtn't they?
Yeah.
Short trousers, my God.
Yeah.
That lantana scrubbed it to you to pieces.
You said that your boots were brown.
Brown, yeah.
And what were the colour of the boots
Black.
of the ACAC battery? Were black.
Black.
They'd be black.
Yeah.
Were they tall things? I mean, no, they.
Oh, only boots. You
Boots.
Just an ordinary ankle.
See, when we were up in the jungle and that, you'd be lined up for a parade,
Yeah.
and we'd hide among the different blokes, didn't want to go with a certain nip, and he'd come round and he'd pick you up by the colour of your boots.
Oh,
He'd
okay.
pick all the brown boots. Roots.
So when did you find out that this battery that arrived was British?
Oh, when they came ashore, we were round
We
them.
knew straight away.
What did you initially think of them when you saw
We
them?
were so happy to see them come ashore, and they were there to help
At
us.
their job, they were wonderful.
Do you remember any of them when they arrived?
Oh,
You don't need to know their names, just can you
no,
describe them.
they just got covers with them that
Yeah.
names didn't mean a thing, those all, you know, children.
Okay.
Good fellas.
Well, so were they a scruffy bunch or?
Oh no, they were all right.
Yeah.
But when I told you about, we were at the advanced platoon on the last day of action, and we had one of the guns come forward with us.
Mm-hmm.
When the order came through that the battalion surrendered, they took the gun back to the main group.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the order was given to us, every fit man was to go up to Adamboa and
Okay.
left the sick blokes in the hospital there.
All right.
They obeyed orders, you see, they were told to go back and they went back.
So this ACAC battery were a pretty disciplined lot.
Oh yes.
Were they rowdy or were they cheeky or
Oh no,
No.
did you tease them because they're Poms?
Oh, not much. But I always remember we were unloading a ship there one time, and we had boxes of fruit and stuff, and we tossed a couple of boxes off to the boys. They were very pleased with them.
Okay.
Oh, they were good. They were all right. They were.
This little chap we used to call Jeep. Oh, he's only a little
Yeah.
short fella. He sticks in my mind.
Yeah.
He loved raspberry jam.
Oh, he was a Cockney.
Yeah, he loved raspberry jam.
So yeah, it's like so that you obviously met the Cockney ones. Did you meet any of the Scottish ones?
Could have done. It's hard to remember
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
If they couldn't talk to us, we'd say, if we can't understand you, write it down. Come in there.
Was that the Scottish ones?
Oh yes, but they were a good lot of blokes. They did a marvellous job through action.
Yeah. Were there any cheeky Irish ones in there?
Very much.
Yeah, there's bits of everything in
Yeah,
there.
they were
Yeah.
a sorted bunch, but they were
But
they
there
were
were
there with us.
there were a couple of Poms in your lot, weren't there? Like you
Oh.
had Private Rowan Robinson. He was from Lancashire.
Yes, it could be a couple of.
There was any amount of palms scattered throughout.
Yeah, yeah. So and you're in the second 40th.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
had more sense, wouldn't they?
Okay. Did you when did you hear that these guys were fought in the Battle of Britain?
Oh, the word gets around, you know.
The word got around?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
but
Well,
when we saw them in
you
action,
see
they
that
were
during
good.
air raid, they were quite accustomed to aircraft.
Oh gee, they were good.
Yeah.
They were really good.
And the whole trouble, you see, there's only one main road there. There was nowhere to disperse or anything else. They had to operate on the road. It was a
Yeah.
coward place.
They used to say, you Aussies can stick to your rifles and your hand grenades and your bayonets, we'll stick to our guns.
Yeah. Did you guys have alcohol or rum with as part of your rations?
rum.
Did you have any of those alcohol as your rations or anything like
No
that?
way, no,
No.
no.
You were lucky to get a beer.
Okay. Because the ACAC battery, they had a regular ration of rum.
Yes.
I said jolly luck.
Did you ever have any of the rum?
No
No.
way. No, they weren't that generous.
Okay. So, so when did you first meet the Japanese?
Oh, 19th of February.
Yeah.
And we were in action against Paratroopers for a start.
Yeah.
They landed 800 and they counted for orbit 70, so we didn't do too bad against the Paratroopers, plus a company of
Yeah.
seaborne things.
So how were they dressed? Were they these Japanese?
Oh, I always remember.
Putties, long trousers.
And their boots were funny. They had like a canvas top boot, and the boot come round, and the big toe was separate to the
Oh,
rest
split
of the
toe.
foot. Split
Yeah,
toe for the
yeah.
big toe, yeah.
Yeah. And they were
Remember
like,
those boots, don't you?
yeah. So were their faces painted green and.
Oh no,
No.
they didn't have. They blended in with the colour of their uniform. You see, they were about your shade, and
Yeah.
with the green, they didn't want any of.
Yeah. So they had these little guns, didn't they?
But I was so glad that they didn't guard us after the thing, because they'd have given us a pretty tough thing.
Yeah.
But I do think what influenced the treatment our boys got in Penfui was that when the battalion had to surrender, there's truckloads of nips among them, you know, overcome the nip bombers, and they come in on a bombing raid. Now blokes took the scrapers quick, smart, you see, and the nips go, oh, nip on Skorky, direct it on 2 truckloads of nips.
Yeah.
A lot of them were killed. The next, when they came back on the return run,
Mm-hmm.
they got down on the side too with our blokes, and wasn't so many casualties. But after the thing was over,
Mm-hmm.
our doctors and medicos treated the wounded soldiers nips the same as they did our boys, because at that period of time they weren't enemy, they were wounded soldiers.
Okay.
And I do think that influenced the treatment of us when we were in prison camp.
Yeah.
I played basketball with them, and some of our blokes would wrestle with them, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And the day we left Timor, that bloke, Nip, drew a badge on my arm, and he said, very bad men, be very careful. And we wondered what it was about, but he drew the Korean badge on our arm, and they were worse than any Nip. They were sadistic brutes.
Okay.
Gee, they were.
Yeah.
Terrible fellas.
Okay. Just got to stop for a second. So you're on Penfui Airfield,
Yeah.
both of you. Did you see the planes coming over and see the paratroopers jumping out of the plane?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, from where I was, I had a very, very good view. I was up slightly elevated,
Yeah.
and
We got
it
out.
was an amazing sight with different coloured chutes. I suppose they were ammunition and
Really?
food and stuff, all different coloured chutes that came down.
And they flew right over Penfui Airfield.
Yeah,
And then they landed all the way down in
Well,
Bilbao.
Bilbao was a flat area. It was just like a real flat area where they landed. And the whole trouble was, when our first colonel went there, the Japs told him, oh, there's no place you can land the Dutch rather, where you can land paratroops, and there wasn't a place you couldn't have landed them out there. There's rice paddy fields there now where they landed.
Yeah. So they flew right over all 8 of the ACAT guns. Were the ACAT guns going off?
No, they didn't open up them. But the ACAT guns there, they was allotted along the different areas along the road by then, you see.
They weren't at Bevo at all, the ACAT guns then when they arrived. They dropped 500 in the first batch, and another 300 thereafter, I think it was.
So the planes didn't fly over the ACAT guns at all?
No, and a company of seaborne troops were supporting them too. But the trouble is, you see, they landed over 20,000 seaborne troops. They thought there was a brigade on Timor, the Nips.
It sounds like there were Japanese on the island for
they
some
were.
time.
Photographers and things, they were in the shops and things, they were spies all the time.
Really? Yeah. Because they must have known where all the ACAT guns were, but
they know everything.
There was a transport plane that tried to land at Penfui, and that was the one that my granddad shot down. And the thing is, at exactly the same time, another plane landed at Dili Airport.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that must have been when they realised that there were ACAT guns.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. Yes, thank God they were there till you're doing action, because they'd have cleaned a few of us up on the road there if they hadn't have been with us.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever meet the Japanese that arrived from the south? The main landing force landed on the Paha River on the south coast. Yeah. Did you ever meet them, or did you ever?
They're the ones in action.
They're the ones who come up behind us.
Behind us and surrounded us.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that they lost truckloads of them, direct hits by their own force. That's what you call friendly fire.
Were they tanks or horses or what?
No.
No.
They came up flying a white flag.
Yeah.
And our poor old interpreter, he thought he didn't see the red circle in it or anything, just a white flag, and he thought they must want to surrender. So they went down asking did they want to surrender.
Okay, we just got a...
Seen all the beautiful cars that they shipped to Japan.
Yeah?
But did I tell you about that little New Zealander who went to the doctor and he's all chafed up under the arms?
No.
The doctor sat him on the chair, pulled his gumboots off and cut the top of his gumboots. He was a little short New Zealander. He's talking about gumboots being my favourite thing.
The thing is, Granddad never met a New Zealander before he came to New Zealand. So he never met one during the Second World War. So here I am, working on this project, and there's not a single New Zealander in the whole thing.
We had New Zealanders as prisoners of war, but I don't know whether they were naval blokes. I don't know where they came from.
Oh.
And they were up in Burma with us there.
Okay.
A couple, at least one was a lieutenant in the Navy, and he's a New Zealander.
Okay. Yeah. Quite a few of them ended up in Japan. Yeah. They put on the hell ships and so forth.
Oh yes, I wasn't sorry we missed out on that trip, because see, we lost 80 of our fellows going to Japan on ships.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fellows in the there.
So, these Japanese that landed with the trucks and so forth and chasing you all the way up to Usua Ridge, what can you remember about that? When did you know that the Japanese had landed rather than the paratroopers were up at Barbell?
Well, actually, we knew the main thing was when this fella come along the road with a big white flag.
Yep.
And it was a Japanese flag.
Yep.
But after the first bombing raid, they were trying to get all the flags possible and run them up and down the road, Jap flag. They still come in and drop the bombs the second time in.
Yeah.
That's friendly fire,
Yeah.
But these nips, nip on scorpions, direct hit on the truckloads of wounded of nips.
Yeah.
See, one crowd of infantry came in from the side to come up to Osawi, and another one came up the main road, you see.
Yes.
And then we had the paratroops there as well.
And only one main road, so, we had truckloads of wounded, you see. What else could they do? We'd give it away. It was practically out of ammunition and no food or water.
So as being part of C Company, you stayed at Penfui And when you saw the Japanese coming up the road, that's when you blew up.
We made a reconnaissance out to where that landing spot at one time, and then they recalled us back, and we joined the main group, and then we in the attack on the Surrey Ridge then.
Okay. So Captain Burr's lot and Trevina's lot. You guys. You went into Tenau and Barbell and Babbo.
Yeah.
Yep. And
yes, they were great days, I tell you.
So when you left Penfui, they blew up everything.
Well, destroyed a lot of stuff. We could see the petrol drums and that being destroyed.
I hear there was a huge explosion.
Oh yes, there was a lot of stuff destroyed, but they left a lot of stuff behind too, because the Air Force went in such a hurry, didn't they?
Yeah, bombs and things had to be exploded, but they'd left and stuff like that.
Jeez.
They should have done it before they went, you know.
So that was a massive explosion. My grandfather said that it was just, you could see it from miles away.
That's it,
yeah. So, did you see the bridges being blown up?
Oh no, we were...
You were already across the bridges?
They crossed the bridges before they destroyed them.
So, you went into, Trevina's lot and Burr's lot, company. You both went into Babbo and, how do you pronounce it? Barbell?
Babbo.
Sorry, I can't have trouble with this. Babbo. Did you run out of ammo, then you had to go out and come back?
Oh, we had a little bit with us, but we didn't have much, and that was the main thing for the main crowd when they had to give it away. So you're practically out of ammo, and you don't carry a lot of stuff with them. We had so many truckloads of wounded, didn't we?
Ammunition, food and water was one of our biggest.
So you didn't have that, and there was only one road. If there'd have been side tracks, it'd have been all right.
Yeah.
And lack of sleep for the 3 nights.
Yeah, but the thing is, when those paratroopers landed, the only people there were like orderlies and cooks and stuff like that.
In Babbo, yes.
So how do they fare?
Well, they did all right, but even so, our mortars did a lot of damage because they'd ranged on this place days before, and they did a lot of damage with those nips. You know,
they did what they did. Cats there, Bill Guthrie, they slit his throat. Quite a few they found tied up with their throats slit.
Against a tree or something? Well, they were tied against a tree.
Yeah.
So they were the cooks and...
One of our chaps that's with us still, Chaplain Richards,
I
don't know what he was doing there because he came out of A Company.
Yeah.
But he got in with some of I think the mainly Crowies lot, what were they? Pioneers.
Pioneer Crew.
And they were doing what they thought was a reconnaissance.
Yeah.
And they came across this crowd which I thought was Dutch troops, and they were Japs.
See, they were dressed practically the same as the Dutch in that coloured uniform.
So they just took them as prisoners of war.
Yeah.
And they kept them with them for 3 days.
Yeah.
Took them up on the top of the Surrey Ridge
and
a bit of a hut thing up there.
Yeah.
They were tied up. And when things started to get a bit tough up there and the Surrey Ridge was being attacked pretty ferociously, they were taking them out in twos and shooting them.
Yeah.
And Bruce Crow and Powerful Richards, they got their hands undone. They got out and they made a run for it.
Yeah.
And they got away.
Oh.
You were lucky, weren't they? Yeah. They were with us for many years.
Powerful said there wasn't a bullet made to catch him that day.
He said he heard a bullet twice. He said when the bullet passed him and when he passed a bullet. So he was going, boy.
They were both out in the scrub for some time, and when Powerful came in, he was in a hell of a mess.
Jeez.
And one of the boys said, isn't he a powerful looking bloke? And that was his nickname for the rest of his life. He was powerful from then on.
Oh dear. So, you first went to Babbo and you were hit with, you suddenly saw all these Japanese firing at you. So, did you split up and try to flank them, or what? What were your tactics?
You just tried to do the best you could, and we caused a lot of casualties with them, no worries at all. So they weren't the best of shots. Yeah. And I've always reckoned the sweetest sound in action is the sound of a bullet. Yeah. That's the one that's missed you.
Okay.
See, the one you didn't hear is the one that would connect.
Jeez. Yeah.
I always remember that by Jude. They were like savage bees, weren't they?
We had quite a few wounded there,
Yeah.
and we had quite a few casualties.
Mhm.
We had 50 killed in action and 130 wounded.
Mhm.
That's a lot of blokes. We had heavier casualties in Crete, and they reckon that was a pretty.
Yeah.
And they actually had 2 goes at Babo when Dravina came back,
Yeah.
and then they went up again, and Captain Roth,
Yeah.
with his driver in a ute,
Yeah.
they went through to see how things were there, and the Japanese commander or whatever he was sitting at a table outside a hut,
Yeah.
and Roth shot him with his revolver through the window.
Jeez.
And old Headley Coombe was the driver.
Good grief. Yeah. So everyone else was trying to retreat to Usura, to Chaplain, and they had all these paratroopers here. And
Well,
were you basically trying to clear the way to get through to?
The paratroops were finished. You see, the action on Surrey Ridge was finished,
Mhm.
and it was pretty near dark then.
Mhm.
And they decided to rest overnight.
Yeah.
And early next morning, we were the 15 platoon, we were the forward platoon. We had to go to see whether the road was clear to
Mhm.
Chaplain.
Yeah.
And the time we got there was bunnies up there. We thought they were nips, their own blokes. If they had come down to us, we could have sent word back an hour earlier. But when we sent word back that it was clear, word came through the battalion that had to surrender.
Mhm.
So the Beaufort gunners with us, they returned to the main group,
Mhm.
but all the fit men were ordered to go to Atamboa in
Yeah.
Dutch territory.
Mhm.
And that's where we finished, and we were up there for about a fortnight,
Okay.
running out patrols,
Yeah.
and there was a big troop of nips approaching with a lot of West Timorese natives and a couple of tanks, so the word was given, every man for himself. And that was all right for the old brigadier was there, because there was a plane to take him back to Australia with his staff. And that's when we heard that our platoon were together, and we heard there was a lifeboat down on the south coast, so we went down.
Mhm.
The lifeboat was there, but it was all, the natives had taken everything of any value out of it. You couldn't have floated it.
Oh dear.
And some of our blokes took sick down there. One bloke died, I think. Goofy Walker died down there. We had to bury him.
Yeah.
And then I think I told you about the natives were bringing a bit of food into us, and our loot wanted 4 volunteers to go with the natives and get some extra food, so like a full I volunteered.
Yeah.
We went with these natives, and by Jews, they were wild hillybillies, I tell you, bows and arrows and blowpipes. I've never seen a mob like them.
Mhm.
We got to their village, and they made a hell of a fuss of us. They gave us, knocked a couple of chooks over to give us a feed, and then without any warning, they jumped us.
Mhm.
So they took our boots and socks off us, tied our hands behind our backs, and we set off barefooted. This was about, I suppose, 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
We worked all that night, and about 12 o'clock next day, I sat down. I jacked up. I wasn't going to move another inch without my boots. I couldn't have.
Yeah.
And they bashed and kicked and thumped, and one of the blokes said, "Oh, they'll kill us." I said, "You only bloody die once. If it's going to be here and now, so be it, you know." I was finished. Anyway, they gave us our boots and we took off. And about a couple of hours later, we came to Nicky, and to our surprise,
Mhm.
there were some of our drivers and one of our loots, Jack Frost, was there.
Yeah.
They looked after us. They had to massage our shoulders for about half an hour before they freed our shoulders up. They were locked.
Yeah.
And then the nip came along and had a look at our feet, and he cut all the blisters off our feet. You should have seen them. And he put some yellow powder on, and that eased them a lot.
Yeah.
And that night we were in a hut, and these nips came up and they had a mouth organ with them. And one of our mates could play it. We had a real party.
Mhm.
And they gave us a bottle of plonk even. It was
Yeah.
the last drink we had till we got back to Australia. Anyway, when we rejoined the battalion,
At Usara Bazaar.
after the bazaar, I was talking to a Dutchman one day,
Yeah.
and he said, "You blokes consider yourself lucky." I said, "Bloody lucky, my feet are still crook and my shoulders still crook. How am I lucky?" Well, he said, did you see a monument round there? And I said, yes. He said there was 10 Dutch names on that. And a few years ago they were rounding up some surplus weapons, and they arrived at this place in the middle of the day and they were just famished. The natives gave them all a coconut, and when they were drinking the juice they killed a bloody lot of them. My old legs and feet and shoulders didn't make half as much after that, I tell you. When he told me I was lucky, I thought, you were kidding, boy.
Excellent. I just got to, it's like, yeah, as I'm telling you, my granddad, you know, he was a Glaswegian, and he was with Cockneys in his battery, and they had a thing about being called Toms by you guys. Yeah. And the story was he'd never actually say that, you guys would never say that you're that you're Australians, you'd always say you're Tasmanians.
Tasmanian, Maori.
So
the whole thing is this, that the only thing that saves us is Bass Strait. They'd invade us if we didn't have Bass Strait there.
So
anyway, my great-grandfather came from Glasgow, so we're kindred spirits.
Yeah. So you never considered yourself as being Australian?
No, Tasmanian first and foremost.
Yeah?
And my mates tell you the same, we were Tasmanians.
And what were what set you apart from the rest of Australia besides the Bass Strait? You said that
something different. We seem to stick together more.
Yeah.
You'd find that we'd be in a group away, and you'd find all the Tasmanians would seem to be together, you know.
Yeah. How were the Victorians that were in your battalion?
Oh, they were accepted, but they were Victorians. We were Tasmanians.
And you used to give them, used to teach them?
We used to stir them a bit, and they'd give us it back in return. But
so how would you tease them?
Oh, you could be very rude and tell them what we thought of. Can't put that on tape.
Well, I was trying.
Fair crack of the whip. But I know towards the finish, especially in Thailand when there was just a few of us together, there'd be a job come up, and we'd all volunteer to go, and I guarantee there could have been 20 or 30 fellows from other states that want to come with us. Of course, they knew we looked after our mates, you know.
Yeah.
We took our sick fellas with us. We weren't going to leave them with a lot of Poms or Dutch. And they wanted to come with us. It was something different. We remember one chap off the Perth, he was with us for years, Max Burke. I used to say to him, you're not a bloomin' sailor. I said, you've been with the 40th longer than you was ever in the Navy. He reckoned that was pretty right too. He was one of us.
Excellent.
The old brigadier they sent over, who was going to take charge of these reinforcements, had turned back. He wasn't going to take charge of the whole of the forces on the island.
Okay.
When these reinforcements didn't come, he just said to Leggett, right, you're going to be in charge of everybody, and he took off back up to join the ones up in Portuguese Timor to get home again.
And that was Vale?
That was...
No?
No, not Vale.
Darling.
Oh, big pot covered bugger.
Typical brigadier.
Veal.
Veal. Brigadier
V-E-A-L-E.
But he was a chief engineer, wasn't he?
Yes.
So he wasn't really a military man, was he?
Well, the funny thing in the army, you know, if you was a teacher or a bank clerk, you were officer material. When we were going to join the battalion up in Darwin, we came across to the mainland, and we had a couple of days at a camp in Victoria. And I'll always remember this, there was about 10 or 12 brand new loots, 2 pips up, and a lance corporal was teaching before them. That's the first thing they'd ever done about the army, but they were already commissioned school teachers. We had some school teachers with us, but fortunately they did all we told them. They took notes of us.
Okay. Yeah. So, do you, for a start, what was your initial reaction when you saw Usua Ridge?
Oh, it was one of those things. It wasn't a very steep run, but they were dug in up there, and we knew we had to take it. I really think so. That's the last battalion bayonet charge in military history, a full battalion. That's the last ever in military history.
And the Japs didn't like cold steel. Not coming at them. They didn't mind putting it out to somebody.
Did they have bayonets as well?
They had bayonets, but the paratroops only had a short rifle.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't an effective rifle.
Yeah.
It was only a short one, whereas we had the old 303 with quite a bit of length on it.
And that was headed by a chap, not Mackenzie. I'll give that one up. McLeod, I think his name was. But anyway, you charged these guys.
Yeah,
and were they good fighters?
the only time I read about it later on, some of them ran, and their excuse was that they were out of ammunition.
You said they're out of ammunition.
Yeah.
I mean, you had 50. You lost 50 men and 130 injured.
Wounded, yeah.
And you must have killed over 1,000 Japanese.
Well, nearly over 700 paratroopers for start. Yes, we did all right.
Did you shoot? But the Japanese paratroopers had already landed on the ground. You didn't shoot them while they were just dangling.
When they hit the ground is when they're vulnerable.
Yeah.
Oh, no, there wasn't one killed when they first landed, no.
So they were all just basically getting dug in, and you guys turned up and
collecting their equipment and everything else, and
we did well, I tell you.
So you went into Balboa. Same. Lloyd, you also went to Balboa.
Big one.
You also went to Balboa.
Was I?
Did you go to Balboa as well?
Yes. Well, I wasn't in none of those bayonet charges.
Okay. No.
I was in transport.
Okay. So you saw this hill, and it was just covered in dead Japanese, basically.
Oh yes, we went up there afterwards. I had to go up to take a message up to the colonel.
That was over the bridge. There was a bridge before.
The ridge, the 70 odd that was left just took to their scrapers and went.
They said there was out ammunition.
So you had cleared the way through to our sewer.
Yeah, and then see, we thought that there were nips at Chaplain. That's why we as a platoon next morning had to make out. See, the battalion was just exhausted. They'd been 3 days and nights without sleep. You can imagine it, couldn't you?
Yeah.
And when we got there and word came through the battalion that had us capitulate, it was one of those things. There was nothing they could do. Truckloads of wounded. They'd have done to our wounded what they did up in Malaya. They poured petrol on them and burnt them in the trucks up in Malaya, the nips. That's what the nips did to our blokes up there. They'd have done the same to our fellows here.
So you went across all 3 bridges, you went up to Usua, you cleared the way, got rid of most of the paratroopers, you're being chased from behind. When you got to Usua, you said that there was another flank coming the other way, from the south. They did a split.
Yes, there was actually the paratroops up there, another one coming in from the flank and the one behind us. The main army coming up the main road.
See, the trouble was there's only the one main road, wasn't there?
Yeah,
There was
22,000, I reckon, between 20 and 22,000 main army. And we wouldn't number more than 1,500 with everybody.
So how many people approached from the south? You said that there was the approach from the west that came through.
Yes, well, that was probably only 400 or 500 coming in from that way.
a couple of companies, I think.
Yeah, and from the south?
South, it'll be the whole crowd.
But you apparently you destroyed the entire southern flank.
Well, we got rid of all the paratroopers. That was the main thing. The one company, about 120, they reckon, a company of seaborne troops. But then, as I say, when this bloke come along with a big white flag and they thought they were going to give it away, and it was a bloody Jap flag, and they didn't see the big...
And the other one's coming from the west? Okay.
There wasn't much you could do because, as I say, we were practically out of ammunition, and we were exhausted. You know, 3 days and nights without any sleep. It was...
So the main part of Sparrow Force was around Usua on the night before they surrendered, and you disappeared up to Chaplain.
We had to go to Chaplain, 15 platoon,
Now they went with Brigadier Vale, didn't they, to try and get the supplies from Chaplain?
No, well, he was already at there, the brig. But see, that was our base camp and our base hospital, and that's why most of those boys of ours that got back from Timor,
Mm-hmm.
they were at Chaplain. They were never through the main action
Mm-hmm.
because they were at the hospital and the base camp, you see.
Yeah.
If we'd have got back there and had a replenishment of ammunition, food,
Mm-hmm.
and medical supplies and everything, it would have probably been a different story. We've gone a few more days.
Yeah.
We were done, we were exhausted. See, when we had to leave early next morning about daylight, we had a hell of a job waking the transport blokes up even. They were just done.
Sleep on their trucks.
Yeah.
So you went up to Adamboa and you were left behind in a sewer. You're in a
Yes,
sewer.
yes.
So what was they were all pretty much exhausted on the night of the 22nd.
Oh yes, we were done. They were done. Yeah.
But they were all dug in, weren't they? For the people coming across the rivers,
No,
coming from
see,
the south and
when the action finished, they'd advanced on the road and they were just on the road.
Mhm.
See, there was no thing at all. And
Now, on the road, the Japanese weren't trying to flank
no,
or
no, because
they're just like a
then
column
next-
march up the road.
The next morning up they came, you see, well, with the big white flag.
Yeah.
They thought that they didn't see the red circle on it.
Now these guys marching up the road were they the ones that the ACAC guns were firing at?
Yeah,
Yes, yes. The ACAC had a gun at the rear of our
Yeah.
column.
Yeah. And they instead of shooting at the troops, they're shooting at the tops of the trees.
Well, the snipers were in the
snipers in the
trees.
trees.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
reckon that's the reason they had these special booths so they could climb trees in them.
Yeah.
See?
So these guys, they were always running up the trees, weren't they?
Oh yes, yeah.
If one was killed in a tree, you didn't know because he was tied there. His
Oh.
rifle was tied to him, nothing fell out. The only thing that you knew he was gone by the cessation of shooting.
Yeah. Wow. So, how did you were there? How did you find out that the Japanese commander had asked had ordered Leggett to surrender? When did you hear about that?
Because we were all grouped there
Yeah.
in the one we couldn't move, you see, with all the vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
And this Japanese come up in a tank, a white tank or something, flying the flag, which they thought was a surrender flag, the old interpreter did,
Yeah.
but it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And he had all these troops behind him.
Yeah.
He was going to give us half an hour, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Half an hour to surrender,
Mm-hmm.
or otherwise the troops would just open fire on everything. And also we said the planes were due over in half an hour's time,
Yeah.
and they would bomb the boat because it was all in one long line
Yeah.
on the road. Well, they didn't notify the planes and they came over and
They bombed them twice. 2 truckloads of nips.
How many planes flew over?
oh, I had my head down. I reckon there'd be anything up to 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah.
4 or 5 planes,
They
could have
flew
been
over
more,
and
could have been
dropped,
less.
and then they made another run in and dropped, and then they realised it.
I mean, the ACAC battery could have shot them down. No worries.
Oh, but
The time they got their guns trained, I suppose, it all come in so sudden because we'd surrendered by
I think it
then.
finished, you see.
And
Oh, okay.
the guns, everything was supposed to be, you had to stack your arms and things like that.
So you're out of ammo, and these guys are marching up the road.
Yes.
Were they like in formation and everything? And
Just,
Oh yes, yes, they'd be like troops in action coming up the
they
road.
just had one tank in the front.
well, that's all they wanted because there's only one road, you know.
Okay.
They just,
It's only a narrow road, just
Yeah.
wide enough to make a vehicle.
you see, you've got to
How do they
realise-
How do they get across the bridge that was blown up? Did they just
Oh, they got up there,
Coming back from,
from between Kopang and Osua? Yeah.
Yes.
That bridge was blown up.
yes, the bridge was blown up when we marched back to go back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They must have made some,
They got across anyway, but
Yeah.
when these 2 bombing raids took place, famous last words are ours, they won't bomb us.
of course then they just took our trucks.
Yeah. One of the ACAC guys were killed.
Yes, there's quite a few of our blokes were killed too.
Yeah.
There was that big fellow, Bushman, was it?
Fred Bushman.
Fred Bushman, he was killed in it, wasn't
Yeah. Well, Jack Mills, he was a short guy. Was his name Jeep?
I don't know. No.
Yeah, okay.
Quite often you'll remember a fellow by his nickname better than his Christian name.
Yeah. So when you surrendered, did Leggett go around and ask every?
He consulted with all the officers, and the word was that. Then that was passed on to the troops. Then there was no.
Did you see the reaction of Jack Dempsey?
Oh, well, he had to conform with the rest because he realised it was.
I heard that he was very reluctant to surrender.
Yes, they all had their say. I think
nobody wanted to, but they realised with all the truckloads of wounded, what else could you do?
I think it was the wounded that really swayed.
Yeah.
Okay.
That had just, slaughtered them.
Now, considering how the Japs treated you in captivity as POWs, would you have, if you had known that when you had the decision to surrender, would you have still surrendered?
No way.
No. We thought that they'd abide by the Geneva Convention.
Yeah.
Like the prisoners in Germany and the way they were treated. They were 5-star hotel accommodation compared to what we had.
Yeah.
They marched us back to a great big paddy field the first night.
That was at Safa Bazaar.
No, before we got to the Safa Bazaar.
Okay.
They put us into there.
Okay.
And I badly wanted to crap.
Yeah.
And I started to make off, and the Jap guard after me pretty quick.
Yeah.
So I told him, and he couldn't understand, so I had to make the motions with the pants coming out what I wanted.
Yeah.
So he stood over me with a rifle and bayonet while I went. And it wasn't a happy thing to have someone watching you crap with a rifle and bayonet over you.
Scared it out of
Did you have to wade across the river?
Big pardon?
You had to wade across the river?
No, when we went back, we went through a dry creek bed.
Okay.
They lined us up in the creek bed.
Yeah.
And mounted machine guns on both sides. And I thought, this is going to be it. If they open up, quite a few of us said, we'll make a run for it. But I think it was just, trying to show their authority with these machine guns.
Jeez. Oof. That would have been quite terrifying. That was so. There are 3 rivers between Safa Bazaar and where you surrendered at Osua. Did you ever wade across them? Any rivers?
Only loads of creeks.
Only there'd be rivers in the rainy season when they're running full tide.
Oh, I see. So you spent the first night in the paddy field, and the next day you went to Safa Bazaar.
Next day into Safa Bazaar.
What was your first impression when you saw Safa Bazaar?
Oh, we didn't know. We just had to get ourselves down to lie down somewhere and have a rest.
So you just slept under the coconut trees?
Slept under the coconut trees, yeah.
Yeah. So you actually, when you were ordered to surrender, were you also ordered to throw away all your equipment?
Yes, they told us to take the bolts out of our rifle. Our own blokes did, which most of us did, and chuck them away.
Yep.
But the rifles all had to be stacked. Bayonets had to be stacked there as well. Hand grenades if we had them.
Yeah. Did you see the Yak guns being destroyed as well?
No, I didn't, because they were dispersed throughout the whole column.
Okay. Now I remember you telling a story about some poor chap. His head collided with an ACAT gun.
Yes.
Now who was that? And
Captain Johnson.
Captain Johnson. Oh my goodness, he was in charge of A Company.
He was the one that was going through while we were held up that night on the road.
Really?
Before Clyde's ones went through the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
He was going to go through,
Yeah.
and we couldn't get any vehicle through.
Yeah.
You couldn't get the ACAC. They had their guns attached to their vehicles.
Yes.
So I think it was an English motorbike
Yeah.
with a sidecar, which Dempsey used to use, I think.
Yes.
And Johnson went in that to go forward and to make a reconnaissance, see was the road clear to get through to Chaplain.
Yeah.
And before he cleared anywhere of our convoy, they hit this barrel of the ACAC gun. So he died that night.
Jeez.
You're unlucky, can't you?
But Captain Johnson, what was he like? Is it Johnston or Johnston? Johnston.
Johnston.
Yeah.
He was a real soldier.
Yeah.
A good soldier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you have a photograph of him? I'm pretty sure.
I don't know if I've got it in groups quite
Yeah.
probably.
What did he look like?
Hmm?
What did he look like?
He wasn't a tall man.
Okay.
I got an idea in civilian life you might have been an electrician.
Okay, yeah. So, you also, okay, you arrived at Surabaya, you got all ready, you didn't have your equipment. Did you have your nets? Because remember you said that you had nets before you surrendered. Did you have the nets afterwards?
No. All our kit bags, all our surplus equipment were put in a truck a couple of days before action broke, and they went back up to Chaplain to be stored there for us. And all we carried was our haversack, our water bottle, a gas mask they was compelled to carry, and things like that.
Okay.
And our ammunition pouches.
So you were there when when McAllister first arrived into the camp.
In Osaka Bazaar,
yes.
I was there. Yes.
Well, can you describe first meeting him and hearing about how he was captured?
Well, we didn't. He was segregated from us by up in the officers' quarters. They still had their separate quarters.
Okay.
The officers. He was up there with them.
Mm-hmm.
We only knew that he came in. He was a survivor.
Yes.
And he was there. And the next thing we knew that he was strolling round back through the camp one morning with the officers that tried to pinch a plane.
Yeah. And they didn't have their footwear.
Or some of them did, I think. I think the old colonel got kicked off for kicking up too much noise with his boots.
They had to sneak along and barefooted, mind you, and then they couldn't start the plane.
Dummy Armstrong or Bill Rainbow or someone was with them, kicked him off.
Yeah. Okay. Jack Dempsey was with them as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
But if he'd have got away, and the colonel had got away, the two IC,
yeah,
it would have been a good night for us.
Really?
I reckon.
Just what would the Nipsit have done?
So you would have been pretty angry about them trying to escape.
No, we were happy that they were trying to escape, but I mean, it was fortunate they didn't, because we would have copped it.
Yeah.
They would have got back and they'd have known the plight of everyone there, but there quite probably wouldn't have been anyone left. I reckon they'd have
did they get disciplined by did the Japanese beat them at all? Or? No. But so he's still wearing his yellow shirt.
I don't put that his yellow shirt. I seem to remember he had a rain cape over his shoulders.
Oh, okay.
I can remember through action, they was striding up there with his little revolver and this bright yellow shirt. He was asking to be shot.
You didn't find it inspirational at all? You just
I
thought
thought I'll keep clear of you, mate.
He had any amount of guts.
Oh,
yeah?
He wasn't lacking guts in anything, the colonel.
Didn't flinch.
But he just didn't have the right idea somehow.
Did you have any jokes or poems about him?
Not so much him, but I'll always remember when we were up in Thailand there was about, I suppose, 50 officers in our camp.
Mm-hmm.
And the Nips in their wisdom bought in 20 pairs of boots.
Yes.
Among about 1,500. So at this time it was Melbourne Cup time.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a competition on the breeding of a horse. And the officers weren't a bit amused. The one that won it was officers' boots, my first choice out of small issue. It was real good, wasn't it? They took offence to that, but they took 10 of the 20 pair, I think. I don't know who got the others.
Yeah. Hey, Leggett was given some medal after the war for a distinguished fighting cross or something like that. Distinguished Service Cross.
He should have got the second class order of the Flying Axe Handle.
No, I didn't know he got decorated.
He got decorated after the war. He got a Distinguished Service Cross or something like that.
They gave him out with packets of tea.
Pardon?
They gave him out with packets of tea or something like that.
Because the battalion, the force he had, put up a remarkable resistance with the men and the equipment that we had against what we were up against.
There's not enough publicity to be given to our
And it's
action.
quite probably for the stand that we made, he'd get the credit for it.
You feel that your battalion was forgotten?
We were
Absolutely forgotten.
Yeah. But I just think my grandfather described, he doesn't exaggerate at all, but he said that the Tasmanians, they fought like something he's never seen before in his life. He has trouble describing it. He says that you guys are extraordinarily
We always
brave.
thought we were something different to the mainland as fair dinkum.
Yeah. Were there any particular chaps who stood out?
What, as soldiers?
Yes, as soldiers during those 3 days.
Dummy Armstrong.
Yeah?
Our company.
He was the guy with the Lewis gun. Or the Bren gun.
Yes, yes. It wouldn't be a Bren. No,
No.
probably
We had Bren gun equipment and no Bren guns.
Do you remember seeing him?
Lewis fired from the hip.
Yeah. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see it, no.
No.
I was at battalion headquarters.
Okay.
But that was in Babao, or before we went into the Babao, I think.
He went in and cleaned out an entire platoon of Japanese.
We found a hut with 4 or 5 or 6 in and
Yeah.
did them. Then he used to go out from the camp into Surabaya Bazaar, get amongst them wherever he could.
So who was the chap who used to go in with a knife at night and just...
That's the dummy.
That was Dummy.
It was dummy.
That's the one who brought the ears back to prove he'd knocked a few off. He brought the nip ears back with him. They didn't believe it, he'd be knocking them off, so he brought half a dozen ears back one morning.
So did he keep the ears, you know, as souvenir?
I don't
He might have eaten them a bit of protein.
He had access to grenades and stuff. I don't know where he got them from or how he got them, but he had access to those as well as ammunition and knives.
See, a thing like that he had to keep to himself because if 2 or 3 had have heard of it,
Yeah.
it would leaked out, wouldn't it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, jeez.
And Captain Sterling, he went bush.
Yeah.
He used to come into the outside of the wire there. We'd see him there dressed as a native with the sarong on.
Mm-hmm.
And he was fairly dark in colour. But I don't know, I think he got caught up with later and was executed.
Okay. Yeah.
We had our company sergeant major, a fellow named Reg Hay, he got a military medal.
Mm-hmm. And was he captured at...
Oh yes,
Yeah, he was captured.
yes, he was a real good bloke, but he died a few years ago.
So many, would many actually receive gallantry medals after the war? After you
about half a
liberated?
dozen got them, I think.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
got a copy of them at home, the different ones that got them.
Okay. So, McAllister, he tried to escape and he came back, and shortly after you arrived at the camp at Surabaya.
Oh yes, but I didn't want to come back, I tell you.
Yeah. Lloyd, do you remember seeing Clyde and his group coming into Surabaya?
I don't recall it.
Okay.
I was out driving a water truck where all the water had been come in by a tanker.
Yes.
And I was driving a water truck most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be start probably at 8 in the morning. I'd be driving through till 4:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
I'd have to go to the Jap cookhouse first.
Uh-huh.
They'd get their share of it, and then they'd have to go to our cookhouse,
Okay.
and then back in again for the boys to fill their water bottles and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Apparently there are quite a few people driving trucks for the Japanese.
Oh yes.
Do you remember a Cockney driving a truck? There's one...
No, I don't. Because they called for all the transport drivers to go up onto the Portuguese border
Mm-hmm.
at Umboa
Okay.
to drive transport.
Mm-hmm.
And they lined them up and lined them up. And my copper was here, they was lined up in threes, I think if I remember right. He was here, the chap I'd always with.
Uh-huh.
And 2 McNeil brothers were behind him.
Uh-huh.
And I said to one of them, I'll change your places, I can be with Joe. He was a bit slow moving out and me a bit slow moving in, and the chap saw us,
Yeah.
pushed me out of the road and pushed the other fellow back into line. And of course he went up with the drivers, but Joe, the chap, he went down on one of these boats, his name's in the book there,
Yeah.
drowned.
So you used to do the supply route, driving trucks up to Atamboa and back to Surabaya and...
No, not to Atamboa,
No?
only into
Kopang.
Kopang.
Oh, okay. So,
Well,
okay.
when we came in, there was Lieutenant Frost and a few of the drivers. We were brought in a place called Nicky Nicky.
Mm-hmm.
See, I could understand a fair bit of the language, and these natives kept talking about Nicky Nicky. And I used to say, for upper kilos, nicky, you know, how many kilometres, always do it too. We weren't gaining any, that's why I sat down and went on strike. Yes, they didn't gain, they always do a kilos of boogers. Yes, there was a few of them driving, like when we came in, we were so pleased to see our blokes there, I tell you.
Out of Surabaya.
Nicky. Yeah, but geez, they looked after us.
Yeah. So when you arrived in Surabaya, that you had your feet treated and so forth, what was conditions like at Surabaya when you arrived?
Okay, the huts were built by then, and I was a bit unlucky. I slept right on the outside, right at the entrance of the thing. But I was undercover.
Oh, you were a private.
Oh yes, I was a poor private then. But the best thing that happened to me is 2 months after the war was over, I got word I'd been promoted to corporal from the 22nd of February 42, and I got nearly £800 back pay, paid a third of my home. Money I didn't think I was going to get, but I was doing a work away, taking work parties out and things like that, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So,
Pleasant surprise.
so pretty much you had regular routine. You had a routine when you were at Surabaya. You'd use the supply routes between. You'd unload and offload between Kopang and.
You'd be unloading, helping unload ships and things there too, work parties around for the nips.
And you used to loot?
Yes.
Oh, no, I wouldn't loot, not much.
Yes.
What sort of stuff? How would you go about it? And what would you steal?
Anything you could grab.
Yeah.
And we made up the idea then of tying little bits of cloth up with a drawstring on them.
Yes.
And use them as crutch bags.
Slip down your pants, sugar or something. It gave a bit of flavour, the sugar, you know.
If you get a bit of sugar or anything like that, you just crave for sugar.
Anything that was available.
I know one poor chap got some salt once and in a hurry and thought it was sugar and put it there, and of course it started to sweat and when he lined up together, and God, he was in a hell of a mess.
Do you remember his name?
Do
you remember his
name? I
name?
don't remember his name.
So the Japanese soldiers were also looting as well, weren't they?
Oh yes, yeah.
Of course, that's the only way they survived, some of them, I think.
So what were you transporting most of the time between Kopang and Surabaya?
We'd be unloading their boats with rice and all stuff like that. They were loading a lot of stuff that's going out from Kopang as well.
They looted everything possible. On Java, if you could have seen all the beautiful cars that went back to Japan.
Yeah.
Beautiful cars, you know, shiploads of them. They cleaned a lot out.
Yeah.
See, Captain Hacking, the Dutch doctor, he had a beautiful big Packard.
Ah, okay.
He'd be able to crop up in 1938 or 39 Packard sedan.
Yeah.
They were driving around in that. The Japs used to break his heart.
What were the trucks like? Were they the British trucks or the Japanese trucks that were using to transport the stuff from Kopang?
Our own trucks.
Your own trucks?
Our own 2nd 40th trucks.
And, okay, excellent. And when you're offloading the ships, now, how were the ships right at the port? Do they come right up to the port?
No, you'd go out in a light, I think, a pretty broad, wide boat.
Yes.
And they'd unload from that with a sling. And they'd just drop it into the boat, and you had to lift the bags out of it, and they'd go back, and there'd be chaps down there loading for you. And the time you've unloaded that, the net would be free, and they'd overcome another lot.
Okay.
And one day there was a nip there with us, in charge of us in the boats.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happened, whether it fell out of the hook on the sling or what, but this heap of stuff came down on top of the nip, fair underneath.
What a shame.
We rushed to shift it.
Yeah.
Whoosh, no, leave him there. He was squashed as flat as could be, and he stopped there until the boat went ashore. They didn't worry about him.
Jeez, and that was on the bottom of the longboat?
They didn't worry about their own. By gee, we were up alongside the railway in a little bit of a siding one time, and there was truckloads of wounded coming down from... And there was one truckload pulled up there was dead fellas and everything else in it. we pulled everybody out and we washed the survivors and gave them water, and that's the first time I've seen a nip cry.
Yeah.
You couldn't believe that they were wounded soldiers, they weren't enemies then, but dead blokes and everything, they didn't care for them.
Yeah.
Coming back from Burma.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I was
down.
coming back out of Burma.
Yeah.
I've seen a nip cry that we looked after them, gave them, filled their water bottles and washed them and cleaned the truck out.
The Japanese were pretty cruel to themselves, weren't
Oh, yes.
Their discipline was corporal punishment, whereas ours was through our pay book. If you did the wrong thing, they put it through your pay book, but the nips,
they? Yeah.
corporal punishment, then I've seen some of them get terrible bashings.
Did you ever see anything like that at Surabaya
No.
on Timor? You never
No.
saw the Japanese being cruel or anything
Oh,
like
no, we got slapped and knocked, you know, if we did the wrong move, they caught us doing it.
But
that? They didn't have any sticks or swords or anything like that, did they?
No, they were all right, because I'm sure that our treatment of their wounded after those bombing raids helped us there.
Oh, okay.
See, that was the thing. And I'm
Okay.
glad that we didn't have the paratroopers guarding us. They'd have knocked us off, I reckon.
For a while, the camp commander, the Jap, I don't know whether he was a colonel or what he was now, in
Mhm.
charge of the POWs, he used to ride a Timor pony.
Oh,
And
his name was Captain Fukada,
Oh, he had, no, we had a more...
and he went around on a tiny little Shetland pony or Timor.
Yes, yeah.
And
with a drawn sword.
Yeah?
Yeah, he
Sword was
rides.
different.
How often would you see this chap on his pony?
Oh, we did it for the early in the piece quite often, quite probably nearly every day or
Was
so.
his feet touching the ground?
Almost.
The damn sword was nearly as long as him.
And so, what did he wear? Did he have what sort of hat? Did he just have those little caps with the
one
side?
of those little cloth caps they wear with the flaps down the back of his neck.
And did he have glasses or anything?
Well, that's hard to remember now, but...
But he had the Japanese suit with the big top boots and
Yes, the top boots.
and the sword out the
And
side.
he'd even
Great
have
big
spurs
sword.
on this little pony.
Spurs,
Yeah.
but his feet were all touching the ground.
Yeah.
Did you must have a nickname for him or something?
We did, I forget what they were now, but they were filthy names.
If you something else come into it.
Okay, so what were the nicknames you had for these Japanese guards?
Oh, Poxy Face,
Boxy face,
Boy bastard. and
Boy
things like
Bastard,
that.
Boy Bastard's Copper, BBC.
the BBC.
Yeah, Boy Bastard's Copper. Gold Tooth.
Okay, do you remember any stories about people like Goldtooth? What did Goldtooth get up to?
Some of them were more vicious than others,
Okay.
but you avoided those if you could.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you should be on those
Was any of them known to go ride around on a motorbike sidecar? Do you remember any of them riding around on the motorbike sidecar?
No, I don't really. I don't think the Jap was very good on the motorbike. It was nearly all push bikes they rode around.
Okay. Yeah. Did you ever see them do any hunting or shooting or?
No, we've been on work parties and seen them stick a bayonet through a goat. There were goats everywhere on Timor.
Okay. So, did you see? So you didn't see any Japanese officers being cruel to other Japanese soldiers
I've seen
on the Surabaya?
I've seen them bash them. There was a steel helmet, give them a whack with their helmet. By
Yeah.
gee,
And what did the Japanese soldier
couldn't
do?
do a thing. If he raised a hand, he'd have shot him.
But what did he do to justify?
Oh, Lord, any minor thing at all.
Yeah.
See, the top-ranking officer
Mhm.
bashed the next one down.
Mhm.
And if he got bashed, he'd go and bash the one below him
Mhm.
until it got down to the lowest private.
Yeah.
And he copped the lot then.
Yeah.
I
So
saw
you actually saw this happen on Timor or on?
most of
Burma?
the-
every place, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially up on the line.
I saw a good cartoon once. There's two Jap colonels.
Yeah.
One's got his arm in a sling and a black eye, and the other bloke's got his arm in a sling.
Yeah.
And the one bloke with his arm in a sling says, "It's your turn to tell the general the bad news today." You'd have finished up with a black eye too.
Where did you see that?
Oh, a cartoon I saw.
Is that during the war?
Another one I saw was a good one. They took over the printing of the Singapore Times in Japanese, the Japs did, and it was
Yeah.
printed in English.
Yeah.
And I only wish I could have brought this back. It told about this brave Nippon airman.
Yeah.
He had his undercarriage shot away.
Yeah.
So rather than crash the plane, he kicked a hole in the fuselage. It landed with his feet. It says he suffered severe leg injuries. Look,
Ran the plane along.
I wish I could have brought that back. They had their little legs along that drive. They believed it themselves. Another one, this nip had run out of ammunition in the plane. He swooped down, he cut the captain's head off with a sword in the boat. He wasn't going bad.
And they used to throw rice balls their dinner. They had for their dinner rice balls.
Okay.
They'd throw it at the other planes and make out they were hand grenades and no surrender.
Printed in English, mind you. Yeah.
Did you have the rice balls in Timor?
Not on Timor, but up in Thailand that they learned to make those. You know, they
Okay.
did good. Some of those cooks.
So what did you eat on Timor?
We had a thing they called rice balls.
Yeah.
That was your own balls. You said they used to get this tinea or something, or weeping tinea.
Okay.
And they were shocking.
I've seen blokes go across the retreat and they come back fanning them. Oh, gee, that was dreadful.
Yeah. So what did you eat on Timor?
Oh,
We had some of their own rations for a while, bully beef. That didn't last a great while. That was mainly rice. Bananas we could get.
Yeah.
I think we got pork balls too, didn't we?
two
Occasionally.
pawpaws, yeah.
What about coconuts?
Oh, yes, well, and I've had millionaire's cabbage. Do you know what that is?
What's that?
You've got to knock a coconut tree down, and where the tip is growing, it's just like stuff like cabbage.
Yeah.
They call it millionaire's cabbage because you've got to get the life of a tree to get a bit.
Oh,
It
okay.
tastes just like a white cabbage, you know, it's good.
Yeah. Yeah. So you never had any coconuts, did you?
Oh, yeah, we had what we could. Once they ran out of coconuts, well, that was it, wasn't it?
Oh, so you started on the coconuts.
The green coconut's beautiful to drink the juice out of.
Okay.
That's what I told you about where they kill those troops on Timor there when they give them that drink of the coconut juice and they killed a lot of them. You get the green, it's just icy cold and it's beautiful to drink.
Yeah. Did anyone get injured from falling coconuts?
Oh yes,
Oh,
people have been.
Oh yes, like one bloke hit in the chest one time.
He was sleeping and it whacked him on the.
Yeah,
Did anyone die or
I doubt it, but
any severe injuries besides that?
Oh,
If you got hit on the head, they'd be dropping quite properly from 20 feet or more.
Yeah.
And they're pretty heavy, a green coconut.
So, how long were you on Timor before you started noticing these coconuts in the
We noticed them the first day. They didn't last too long.
I got to soon wipe them out, boy.
The agile chap that could climb, well, he was in greatly demand.
Yeah. Yeah, dear. Did you ever have to teach these cockneys, these people in the Akat battery how to survive in the bush or anything like that? Did you?
The ones that were with us learned quickly.
Yeah.
But we were in Thailand one time, and we were jungle wise, you know. We would harden up to it.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a team of English boys came down from Saigon, and they'd been living with the Free French were feeding them, and they were mud fat. And I reckon in 3 weeks there was 20% of them dead.
Yeah.
They folded up like concertinas. Whereas we were jungle wise, we were toughened up.
So it sounded like life on Timor was probably the best of any time in captivity.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was, yeah.
Timor was,
Well,
yes.
you had the nice sea to go and have a swim in.
We could go out every night and have a swim in the sea or paddle in the sea. We spent half our time out there on the beach when we weren't on work parties.
And you obviously were very tanned.
Yes.
Oh, Christ.
They called me Tamil.
He hasn't lost it.
Tamil.
But he's
The
got-
Tamil's the blackest Indian there is.
Yeah.
But
I
he-
was absolutely black.
So that was your nickname, Tamil.
Tamil.
But he's got a touch of a tar brush in the old cobber.
So how did you fare with the heat?
I've got to be very careful even now. Every day, as soon as I have a shave, I've got to put cream on.
Okay.
I've got to be very careful now. Yeah.
Did you ever have any moles or your skin
No.
went black or?
No, I didn't black. I was a white fella.
Yeah. What was everyone else like? Was there some cases of severe sunburn or?
No, the heat, the sun didn't seem to burn you. If we'd have been exposed down here in Tassie to the sun up there, it'd have killed us. But it's a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you what, up in the jungle, when the monsoonal rains came, that's the only thing that saved us. It was a warm rain. If it had been cold, as none of us would have survived. We had no clothes.
It rained for 4 or 5 weeks on end and never stopped.
No, God.
And that was on Timor.
No, this is up in the jungle.
Up in the
in
jungle.
Thailand and
Okay.
Burma.
Yeah.
We had a Dutch interpreter up there that nobody liked much.
Yeah.
His name was...
Okay, let's pause. Yes, we've just been joined by Bert and Jim, who are also the second 40th. So you guys can just jump in and refresh their memories at all. Now you're talking about the severe sunburn at Osaka.
Now, I was about to tell you about the Dutch interpreter.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Captain Core Punt.
Core punt.
But he always got poor cunt. And he used to go mad.
Close.
Oh, that'll be on tape.
Yes.
If you have a sense of that.
That's an unfortunate name, isn't it? And you met him up in Thailand?
Up in Burma.
Up in Burma. Okay. So I was wondering, you had sunburn. What about the mosquitoes?
Oh, they were terrible. But the biggest trouble on Timor was that you could get a scratch off that blooming coral rock and it'd give you an infected sore, or
Okay.
blooming lantana scrub it tear to pieces. And that's why I say, when they sent us there with short trousers and short sleeves, it was criminal. Should never have been.
So did you make any provisions? Like, did you ever cut up your own clothes and extend your shorts or anything like that? What did you used to do to combat all this coral?
You had to put up with it.
You never actually tried to make your shorts longer or anything like
You
that?
had no shorts.
They were short shorts, and when you ran out of them, you had a G-string. That only covered you.
Good grief.
Most of us just used a G-string, that's all we had.
Jeez. Yeah.
Oh,
With a bit of cloth tied around.
Yeah, just a string with a...
Yeah, that's it.
And the Japanese gave them to you.
Oh, we had pitch him anywhere or scrounge him or cut something up.
Did you have any underwear on Timor?
Big bud?
Did you have any underwear on Timor?
We had nothing on Timor.
Underwear?
Oh, until we ran out of it. But
Oh, okay. Okay. So, did you have plenty of quinine on Timor?
yes, we were treated all right, and I can tell you funny about it with Queenie. One of our mates, bad luck he's not here, Alan Clennett. When we were on Timor, we were guarding the planes of a night to see and having a sleep through the day, and we were given quinine tablets with a sugar coating on.
Oh.
So Alan's asleep this day, and I drop one in his mouth. Oh, pleasant smile come on his face when he tasted the sugar, but when he got through the sugar and onto the quinine, I'd like to have had a camera on that. He woke up with a bang.
I've done that to him in Sumatra.
You did it. Poor old Alan.
He nearly murdered me.
He had good memories of what I did to him, I think, Jim.
We're all in different areas, you see. Jim was in Sumatra.
Sumatra?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Clyde was in Thailand,
Yes.
and I was on the Burma end.
And Jim?
Oh,
He was a...
Burton, I'll probably fill you in
Yeah.
about the road from Chaplain back up to...
Yeah.
He went up and joined the independent company, you see.
Yes.
He got cut off. He was a transport driver,
Mm-hmm.
and when the action broke, he was back at headquarters doing something. Because he got cut off and couldn't get back.
Jeez. God. So, you had plenty of quinine on Timor.
On team, we had
Yeah.
quinine. But
And, but still, what was the story about this farm? There was a farm where the Japanese asked for 100 volunteers.
oh,
Yes.
yes.
Garden.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, they grew a bit of stuff out there, but the bloke that had in charge of it, I'm blowed if I know, he couldn't even cut his own lawn, so he had him in charge of the garden. He and Borum. Be typical, wouldn't it?
I didn't work on the garden.
No, I didn't either, no.
Yeah, my grandfather, he said that the Japanese asked for 100 volunteers,
Yeah.
and these guys disappeared up somewhere to have a farm, and
Yes.
none of them came back.
Oh, they finished up and came back to go.
Yeah, they all
when we
came
left
back.
Timor. Yes,
Yeah.
they-
There wasn't a malaria outbreak up there.
Oh, no, they all survived.
Oh, okay, they all survived.
Yeah, oh, yes.
I was trying to verify that. And,
They survived because they went with us, finished up in the jungle with us.
okay. Yeah. So, tropical ulcers.
Oh, they were dreadful things. I've seen
Wo-
full
Yeah.
whole huts of tropical ulcers, fellas with their full shin bones exposed.
And the first outbreak was on Timor.
Yes, we had a few there.
Now, quite a couple of the British chaps, they died from tropical ulcers.
Well, in Thailand there was 800 amputations
Yeah.
from tropical ulcers. Could you imagine 800 lose their legs? They were
Yeah.
dreadful, poor fellas.
Did your doctors on Timor know how to treat tropical ulcers?
And they had nothing to treat them with.
We had one Dutch doctor who was very good,
Yeah, I heard
Dr.
that.
Hacking.
I heard that one of the Australian doctors were trying to treat their ulcers with maggots.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wounds, maggots were the greatest things out for wounds because the maggot would only take the bad flesh.
Yeah.
Just recently I saw an article, some professors have spent millions of dollars over the years working this out. They could have asked us 50 years ago, could have told them.
Mhm.
A fly-blown wound, it healed up quicker than anything because the maggot only took the bad flesh.
Yeah.
Oh yes, that's a fact.
Yeah. Did you ever get any tropical ulcers?
Only small ones.
And you got them. Where did you get them?
Up in Burma, on the ankles mainly, on the lower leg.
I've got a little one here, the only one I had.
Yeah.
It was only as big as about a 5 bob piece. See
Really?
that mark there?
Yep.
That's all mine was. I was very, very lucky. Yeah, that was my tropical ulcer.
Yeah.
And it was, they probed down and cut a little sinew or something there, and that healed up very quickly. But I was
Okay.
terribly lucky with mine. And I've seen some poor fellas, their full shins exposed. They were just...
They just took only the skin off, didn't they? Did they ever go any deeper?
Oh yes, well you just imagine.
You see the bone,
See the bones, so it took everything.
and they scraped them out with a spoon.
Yes. Remember the Dutchman, I am the bloody butch, and he'd be scraping these things out with a silver spoon by cry.
Okay.
Poor fellas.
Yeah.
Talking about the maggots,
Yeah.
we had one chap on Timor got a burst through the mouth and lost a part of his jaw and his teeth and his tongue.
He got a burst
Machine gun.
Machine gun.
Oh. through his
And,
jaw.
He couldn't talk.
Yeah.
They took him into camp and they looked at him and thought, oh, we can't do anything with him.
Mhm.
Of course, they did the ones they could do something with first.
Yeah.
And he was being driven mad.
Mhm.
So finally he grabbed a bit of paper and wrote down, I'm not going to bloody well die, do something.
Yeah.
And when they had a look at him, his mouth had been full up with maggots, they'd eaten all the rotten stuff away.
Yeah.
And they could set to work on him. Oh, Bill Harper, remember Bill Harper?
Yeah, Bill, yeah.
Did he survive the war?
He survived the war. I was with him in Burma, and the poor guy got a big ulcer up there and lost his leg.
Yeah.
He came home. He used to talk a little bit awkwardly, didn't he?
Yeah.
But other than that, he was quite good.
Mm-hmm.
Married when he came home, and they fitted him up with a car with a hand clutch and everything on those days.
Yeah.
But he's long since dead now.
Okay.
He was a much older bloke than us, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Bill?
yeah.
Okay. So we've covered.
He looked after one of the officers, didn't he?
Big one.
He looked after one of the officers.
Bill did he?
Yeah,
Ah.
yeah, that's Sharman.
Shaman, Chief Shaman, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, did he?
Trevor
I didn't know
Sharman.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
He was in C Company.
Batman.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that's right.
Okay. So we've covered conditions in the Sarpasar. Was there ever an outbreak of any diseases or anything like
No,
that?
Sarpa Bazaar was pretty clear.
Yeah. So how was the treatment for most of these guys who were injured from the fighting?
Oh, our own doctors did as well as they could. We had some good doctors with
Yeah.
us, and they were, the ones that survived. We had a few. And I've often told people the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life. Do you remember Ronnie Bowick?
Yeah,
Well, Ronnie, my mate, we were cobbled up, and he was wounded in the leg through action.
Mm-hmm.
He finished up and lost his leg and eventually his life.
Mm-hmm.
And when it come time for his funeral, he was buried on Timor.
Mm-hmm.
They wrapped him up in some old matting, that's all we had, and then when it was time to bury him, they didn't have a rope, so I got down to the grave and they lowered him down to me.
Yeah.
They wanted to drop him in, but they weren't going to drop my mate in. No
Yeah.
way. So that's the hardest thing I've done in my life, to lower my mate into the grave.
Yeah.
yeah.
So we've So, I hope you don't mind me asking, were funerals a regular thing?
Oh,
In Surabaya?
Daily.
Surabaya?
oh, we didn't.
Oh, not in
lose-
Surabaya, no.
Not on a Surabaya?
No,
No.
We had, I think there were about 12 headstones there, weren't there,
Yeah.
they made?
Yes.
The engineers.
Yeah, so... you used to have the same... Was there a chaplain in your...
Oh, yes.
We had two.
Yes, we had a Roman Catholic old Crocodile Bill and a fellow named Binderman, but Crocodile Bill was a marvellous old fellow.
Yeah?
He didn't matter what religion you were, he was a man's man.
Yeah.
Benjamin was English.
Oh, Benjamin.
English.
Were the ceremonies very respectful? Did you all
Always,
gather?
yeah.
Were the Japanese all right about that?
Oh, yes,
Oh,
they
yes,
didn't mind
yeah.
that. No, they appreciated that, I think.
Did Crocodile Bill, did he ever stand up to the Japanese to try and tell them...
What much he
I
could
don't
have
think
done.
he'd draw his horns in about anything.
No.
I think he'd be more so than the other Binderman. He'd avoid everything.
Okay. Yeah.
But old Crocodile Bill, he's a funny old fellow. When he came home here,
Mhm.
he came across for one of our reunions, but he was a week early, so we got him with one of the officers on the coast, a fellow named Scotchy Morrison. Scotchy was off the beer.
Okay.
So they'd call in a pub and order a beer and a square and lemon.
Mhm.
And old Crocodile would say they'd put the square and lemon in front of me. He said, gee, there was some astonished barman along this northwest coast. He said, I wasn't going to drink this guy, I was a beer drinker. Oh, he's a runner.
So, were there any miracles? Was there anyone who would you consider a miracle that is still alive today or survived the war? Anyone who was injured in the fighting in Timor?
Not so much in, but you're looking at 3 miracles here.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I realised that.
I don't know how any of us survived.
So what about the guys? Were there anyone injured in the fighting at Timor who managed to survive in Surabaya and had a full recovery or anything like
Oh
that?
yes, but we didn't lose many. I think there was about 12 died of wounds,
Mm-hmm.
but other than that they all survived.
Yeah.
About 130 wounds.
Okay.
Yeah.
There weren't any cases of gangrene or anything like that, or any amputations, or
Not well. Ronnie Barker was the only one I knew on Timor's lost his leg, didn't you, Jim?
Yeah.
yeah.
Basil Bill had a rough go for a while.
Oh,
didn't he?
yes.
His wound, I don't know what it
Yeah,
was
he
there.
survived all right.
So, what's it besides doing the supply routes between Kopang and Surabaya? Did you have any other jobs?
Unloading the boats and so
Mhm.
forth, and those that ran on the garden.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, no.
What about rebuilding these 3 bridges?
Oh no, they wouldn't trust it on bridge building. We did our bridge building in Thailand.
Oh, my granddad said that he helped rebuild 3 bridges.
Could have done too.
So he was working with the Australian engineers,
Yeah.
and,
Yes, yeah,
and they were the ones who blew up the bridges originally.
Fortress engineers, yes.
Yeah.
That's what they call poetic justice.
Yeah. Okay. What do we think? Is there anything else before we start going through the names?
Well, anyway, in Java, our best job there
Mhm.
was we'd go out to an oil depot there and fill up drums of oil and stuff, and what we put in those drums was nobody's business. We'd keep somebody on the lookout, and by gee, I wouldn't like to have been on the other end. We did sabotage on everything we possibly could, you know. We thought that was doing our bit.
Yeah.
Gee.
Do you remember anything? Any other funny incidents on Timor involving any of the? You said you had the BBC guy. Remember the BBC, the bastard?
The boy bastard copper and all them.
Yes. What? Anything? Do you remember anything funny about them, or anything particular that they did?
No.
What about Goldtooth?
Not that I can draw to mind. Some of the names of the blokes. Do you remember them? The nicknames we had? Goldtooth, Poxy Face, and
Did
BBC and the BB. And
could any of them speak English?
some of them could. You had to be careful.
That's
Yes.
where a lot of the boys made a mistake. Some of them spoke better English and they realised that bloke that put that badge on my arm when we left Timor, he spoke in perfect English.
Yeah.
Very bad men, be very careful. So you had to be careful.
And you didn't know before that he could speak English?
No, so most of us were pretty careful on anything we said in front of them. You couldn't take the risk.
They'd never let you know they could speak English.
Yeah.
They always would try to make you speak in their language.
Okay. Did you have much interaction with the the Akak battery boys
Oh,
in Osaka Bazaar?
No, they were in a region of their own, if I remember.
Yeah.
Right?
Were they ever did they ever intermingle at all with any of the 2nd 40th group?
Did they?
Ever intermingle? You know, did you have any?
Oh, yes, the band of them, some of them bound have had cobbles amongst them and everything
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
It used to, but
Yeah.
normally the 40th was in one lot.
Yeah.
Like signals would stop together and the transporters stop together.
Yeah. Did you have any social events where you all got together? Like any concerts or to commemorate any particular event?
not on Timor.
Not on Timor.
But when
No.
we got to Singapore, they were lucky there. They had a concert every week there. I'll tell you one good one there. There's this female impersonator, and she was something. You ought to have seen it. And she was supposed to be an office worker.
Yeah.
And they brought this scene in with the office with a typewriter, and in the corner was a big sofa.
Mm-hmm.
And this bloke come in, you know, and he looked at the crowd and he said, I can understand the typewriter, what's the sofa? Oh, she said, that's the secretary's workbench. Caused a laugh.
Excellent.
Then old Crocodile Bill was there one night,
Yeah.
and when we were in Catherine, there was an old Abbo woman, Rosie, used to do the washing and that for them. So they got the boys wetted up, and this fella stood up, is there a Crocodile Bill in the audience? Yes. He said, I've got a telegram from you from Rosie. Please come back, I'm missing you. Rosie, well, of course, the laugh. They're the little ones you'll never forget, you know.
Okay.
And he was a lovely fellow, Bill,
Yeah.
old Croc, he was.
We've got 3. I'll just end the tape here.
Their commander got killed in the first air raid on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to run some names past you. Let's see if you can remember anything about them. Do you remember anything about Major Trevina?
Oh, it's Captain Trevina. Oh, Christ.
Captain Trevina.
He was terribly...
Captain Trevina, okay.
He wasn't too... He was as scared as bugger than nips, I tell you. I can't say that, but he was.
He was scared.
Oh, God, yes, he used to tremble when they came near him.
He was a VX number.
But he was like a reserve company. He was like floating around the place. They usually meant to be like a elite group.
One thing about it, I can say it easy enough now, but I was never frightened of them. They were only bloody blokes the same as us, but poor old Trev, he'd tremble if the nips come near him, fair dinkum.
Really?
He'd pass it on to Borum or those blokes, he wouldn't...
Did he fight very? I mean,
I don't know what he was like through action, he might have been alright there, but
yeah.
later on he was, no,
Did it get to him?
I think so, yeah.
Did he must have seen some atrocities or something? Or?
He's frightened it might happen to him.
Oh, okay.
He was an older chap than us, wasn't he, Trevina?
Yeah.
But he wasn't a tough chap.
No.
I don't think so. He was something to do with bull sales or something, wasn't he?
Was he tall or what did he look like?
Wore a moustache, very dark.
Yeah. Was it a thin moustache or a thick moustache or?
Oh, you're coming at me now.
Was he short, stocky, tall?
About average.
Average? Yeah. Was he a very fit chap?
No, about the average build, Trevina.
Okay. Yeah. Have you ever seen anyone who looks like him, or does he remind you of anyone?
No, I don't think he wandered like that.
So he was in charge of D Company.
Yeah.
Now, how would you describe the group in D Company?
They were a good lot of blokes.
Yeah.
But you can't help your officer, can you?
Okay. Was there anyone else in D Company which was
Actually,
prominent?
No, you're more concerned about your own immediate company, you know, or your own platoon. We knew ourselves, we didn't we, Jim, our boys, but
Yeah.
other than that, you didn't worry that much about it.
What about Slim Moore? Didn't he? Slim Moore, lived there at Australia somewhere?
Oh,
Slim Moore, yes.
he's out there somewhere.
He's still out there. We never see him, though, do we?
There's so many blokes just dropped out. We've never seen them since the war finished, you know. They're the ones that have missed out. We haven't missed them.
Okay, let's just see. Okay, so it's just my grandfather was on Penfui Airfield, so he spent most of the time with C Company,
yeah.
which is your lot.
The Prime Company. we're in the majority, see, 2 to 1-1.
So you're called Crime Company.
Oh no, C Company.
C Company. You never had any nicknames for your
No,
group?
but the next war I'm going to be in C Company. I'm going to see him go and see him come back.
No, okay. Okay, so do you remember Major Spence? Spence?
No, I don't know.
No,
Maybe
he was second independent company.
Oh, okay. He was commander of Independent Company, which was your group?
Yeah.
Okay. He didn't really see any action in
not
Post-Timor.
where we were. No.
Okay, that's fine.
You saw plenty up there where he was.
Okay, what about Major A.J. Wilson? He was Royal Australian Artillery. Remember Major Wilson?
Yes, heavy fortress battery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was bombarded by the bombing raids.
He was the one that was killed, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. What was he like?
Oh, I had nothing to do with him. Only seen him, that's all. A fairly big chap, if I remember right.
Okay, okay. And same with Captain Carrick?
Captain Carrick later went into Parliament.
Oh, did he?
And didn't open his mouth to help POWs.
Didn't he?
No, he was a useless twit. Excuse my French.
That's on tape.
Now, your second 40th Association was kind of very active after the war with trying to get compensation, is that right?
Oh yes, yes.
Now, is that because of the way the Japanese treated you or the fact that you had to surrender?
No, not only that, we wanted compensation for our widows too. We battled for years to get something extra for the widows.
Yeah, okay.
See, when you joined the army, a married man was on 5 shillings a day and he had to allot 3 shillings of that to his wife so she could get 3 shillings a day. Gee, they were generous, weren't they?
Mm.
And they had a family together on that, some of them, you see.
Yeah. Did you have much correspondence between... Did you have any correspondence between Timor and home? With your wives and so forth?
Not regular. You sent the stuff, but
Yeah.
it was all censored on Timor, what you sent.
Okay, yeah.
Not only that, it cost you 10pence to send a stamp home with views on 2 bob a day. That
Okay.
didn't have much over, did you?
Okay. So after, when you were captured, did you have any correspondence?
No, I think we were allowed to send about 3 messages home.
What
And
about...
it was a printed thing, I'm well on this, and nobody said I was sick.
Okay, and that was done through the Red Cross. Did you receive any Red Cross
I
parcel?
never saw a Red Cross parcel in the 3.5 years I was a POW.
We were on Timor and
Yeah.
on Thailand, and we got one towards the end, one between 12. That's the only Red Cross parcel I saw.
Did you ever see the parachutes coming out of the sky or anything like that, or the Red Cross parcels being parachuted down, or?
No. We knew they were in the camp because we could see the cigarette packets
Mm-hmm.
that the guards were smoking themselves. And
Nipsey it lived on them.
Mm. So, okay. What about Lieutenant Sharman?
Yes, Trev Sharma's 15 platoon,
That's right. That's the number 15 platoon,
Yeah.
and that was C Company.
C Company.
Yeah. What was he like?
A good fella, Trev, a good athlete. He was a good footballer. He won a big race up here one year,
Mhm.
the Latrobe Gift. But the last 4 years of his life, he was complete invalid. He was
Yeah.
bedridden, couldn't do a thing. His last 2 years of life, I used to go down twice a week to see him.
Mm-hmm.
To feed him, it was like feeding a little bird. He'd open his mouth and he'd pop a spoon. It was a relief when he died.
What did he look like when he was?
Fresh young fella. He was a nice appearance. He was a good fella.
Was he blonde or
Fair-headed
fair-headed?
fella, yeah.
You all had the same haircuts? That we all had the short back and sides, and,
oh yes.
and on the top you just...
No, I have mine a cut and a polish now. No, I read a thing recently in the military. I got a photo of my great grandfather, and he had the haircut as I've got. And it says, this is so help me,
Yeah.
that for me, with my genes, to have a perfect head of hair at my age, I'd have had to been castrated before I reached the age of puberty. Geez, I'm glad they didn't read that. Rough, wasn't it?
So you served alongside Lieutenant Sharman.
Oh, yes.
What platoon were you in?
15 platoon.
You were in 15 platoon.
In 15 platoon.
Yeah, both.
We were together.
How many were in a platoon then?
Oh, we're 33.
And how many in a company?
Oh, we're 130, 140.
So about 5 or 6 platoons in a company.
4.
4.
13, 14 and 15 was
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you had you had support people like cooks and stuff like that.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Okay.
Odds and sods.
And meds and medical.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
With the exception of headquarter company.
So your group of 15 and 15 platoon, yourself,
Yeah.
but you two, and Sharman. Who are the other ones in your platoon?
Oh, there's Alan Clennett, there's Mickey Balcom,
Nessie Hay.
Nessie Hay.
Did any of them die in combat? Did any of them
The
die
only
on
one
Timor?
that was, the one I was telling you about, Ronnie Barwick, he was the one that was shot through the leg and lost his life and his leg
Okay.
and his life.
And how many others were injured in your platoon?
Oh, just offhand, I suppose about 6.
Okay.
Nessie was one, wasn't he?
Nessie was one, yeah, about 6 I think wounded, yeah.
Yeah. So did you see the ACAC battery regularly throughout your
Oh, only on the road and that, you know.
on the road?
Yeah.
Okay, while they were treating.
But
Okay.
they were marvellous to action, those.
Did you ever see them shoot down any planes?
Oh yes, we saw several planes come down. They did a good job, by geez, they did.
Like, where did they shoot down the planes? While
On the road, on the 3rd day of action.
did they just suddenly stop the truck, set up the gun, and then?
Oh well, the trucks were stationary, and
Yeah.
when they come over, boom, boom, yeah.
Yeah.
No, they were a good lot of fellas.
So they were shooting down the planes as you guys were retreating on the road.
They should have been in C company.
Were they like
Yeah.
staggered positions lined up
yes,
on the
yes,
road?
Just went there.
Oh, okay. So you actually you retreated and you went over to
No.
Barbo. We're having trouble with that. it's like six.
I was just saying when the old colonel was in action, that bright yellow shirt he had, Jim,
Yeah.
going up the ridge there, by God, he's asking to be shot, I thought. I wouldn't have worn it.
So how many Japanese you reckon your
Oh, you wouldn't
platoon
know.
killed?
You wouldn't know because the main action was on, you know, that was the thing.
But none of you were none of your platoon were involved in the bayonet charge in the Surrey
We
Ridge.
were in the full, we were in the last, as a battalion bayonet charge at the finish, oh yes.
Good
I say that was the last bayonet charge in military history,
Yeah.
full battalion.
That's what broke the Japanese up on the
Yeah, when they saw the lot coming, you see.
Jeez, God. So who else was? You mentioned someone else in your platoon that isn't here. It's you.
Oh, Alan Clennett, he
Clennett?
couldn't
What-
come up, he's going to the wedding.
Okay, what's he like?
Oh, he was all right until I fed him that sugar-coated quinine tablet. And Jimmy did one too.
He keeps in contact with us. We have a meeting once a month and get together, and
We see him fairly
keeps
often,
in
we go for
contact with
dinner
us.
and things, you know.
When's the next time you're going to see him?
The first Friday
In March.
in March.
Okay.
That's a POW.
So your platoon pretty much gets together regularly, does it?
No, that-
How many of your platoons left?
Not so much a platoon, but the battalion
POWs.
and the second 40th.
But how many of your platoon are still around?
Oh, I suppose about 8 of us, there were many more.
Tough one.
About 8, I reckon. So I've got to be the surviving member and put a line through the second last one.
I'm gonna when I come and see you and down south, we'll go through all the.
Well, you'll see some of my
So how many
material
are from
down
your
here.
platoon? How many of your platoon are actually at this reunion?
Oh, and there's 2 of us, isn't there, Jim?
What was that?
At the reunion, there's only
Yeah.
2 of us out of C company, isn't
Last night?
there?
Yeah, that's all. wasn't
Yeah,
it?
only
Okay.
2 of us.
Yeah.
Okay. So all the rest of them are down south.
Oh, North Coast are up here. Some of them live up here, but they
Okay.
didn't come to the reunion.
Okay. That's
They're
all
not
right.
as young as us. Jim is only 92 and they're not as young as us.
Did you know any of your platoon before you joined the second
No,
40th?
not until we got in the company, really.
So you pretty much so you're friends for life since then, eh?
Oh, God, closer than family.
So you all went to the same. You went to different. You were split up though, weren't you?
Oh, yes.
After you were captured.
Oh, yes, well, when we went to Java, they kept about 400 on Java, and the rest of us went to Thailand and further up here.
Okay. I'm going to.
I took cooked here.
Yes,
I missed out on
some of the sick,
on
jellyfish and some others.
everything you could think of.
Yeah.
Some of you took a different ship coming out of Kopang. Is that right? Where did you split up? Was it at Batavia or Singapore, or where did you part?
Java.
Java. Okay. Yeah, that seems to be
Some
the
went out
place.
to what they call the bicycle camp, didn't they?
Oh, bicycle camp. Yeah.
But we were at the port for Java.
You would have. Were you in bicycle camp?
No, Tanjong Priok.
Were you in bicycle camp?
Yeah.
So you would have followed a lot of B Company from the Akak battery there. Was it a big camp?
I was in
Yeah, it
bicycle
was.
camp, yeah, it's a big camp.
It was
A
an
good
old,
camp too.
an old prison camp, I think,
Yeah.
in the first place. Yeah.
So it was a large camp. How many people would be there?
Well, when I was there, that would be September, October 42. I suppose there'd be anything up to 1,500, might be 2,000.
Okay. Yeah. So there are apparently 100 from the Akak battery that were at bicycle camp.
That they could have been, yes.
That was Ernie Boswell and Ken Bridger and all that lot.
Yeah, we just stuck with our own crowd, the 40th, and
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, a couple more names here. Okay, Lieutenant Corney.
yes, killed in action.
Cornish.
How did he die?
Dave Corney.
Yes,
Corney.
Dave Corney, that's
Corney,
right.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about him?
No, he was killed in action on the second day, I think.
Yes. And what company was he in?
That might have been D Company, was it? Corney?
I've got it all at home.
Wasn't Trevina in there at the
Yeah.
time?
Trevina was deacon.
No, the first one's into, oh God, I have to say it again. Babel.
Babo. Babo, write it down.
Babo. even when I write it down, I still pronounce it different. Babo. Okay. He was the first lot in there, so Corney would have been in that group.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So, here we go. Captain Johnston. Yeah, he was an A Company. He was the one who was killed with
Killed off
the
the motorbike.
motorbike. Okay, Roth. He was
Killed in action.
killed in action. He was in charge of B Company.
Correct.
He was an Englishman.
Originally, yes.
And he-
Headmaster of Church Grammar School, Launceston.
He was a school teacher at Launceston Grammar School, yeah. Can you tell me anything about Roth?
Very stern man. He'd
Yep.
almost drill you with his eyes when he looked at you.
Yep.
Wasn't a soldier until he joined the 40th. He knew very, very little. He had charge of cadets, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I don't think he knew much about soldiering until he joined the 40th.
He was a steely bloke,
Mhm.
from what I've been told.
Very fair, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very, very fair, but he could drill you with his eyes. You wouldn't tell him a lie.
Did you give him much grief because he was English?
No, I don't think so.
No. No.
He was a respected fellow. He was a good
Very
fellow.
respected.
Yeah.
He got killed with a hand grenade.
Yes. Yeah. Apparently, he was injured and he just kept on fighting. He just very gallant. He was. A lot of people describe he was injured. He went in and out of Bubbo a couple of times, and then he got hit with a grenade. Now, who was the chap who shot? No, it was Trevina. Who was the one who shot the Japanese officer and Bubbo?
That was Roth.
That was Roth.
He was driving through Headley Combe. Headley Combe was his driver. And Roth shot the commander sitting outside of his desk.
Now, what were they doing in the truck going through? Were they trying to break out to?
Reconnoitring, see what was left in Babo and things like that.
So, did he know the Japanese were there?
He did when he saw him there.
Now, who did you say they thought they were Dutch? By the way that they were dressed, who thought that they were Dutch and then discovered they were Japanese?
That was the pioneer platoon,
Yes.
plus a couple of others who were at Babo.
Mm-hmm.
That was Bruce Crow and
Bruce
Powell.
Crow and them, and
Yeah.
they went back, they got out of there because things were getting hot.
Mm-hmm.
I was hoping to meet up with their own crowd. I saw these green uniforms and thought, oh, these are the Dutch. And they were nips. And I kept them a couple of days, and when things started to get a bit hot, they were taking them out in pairs and shooting them.
Yeah.
And 2 made their escape.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, Lieutenant Williams, R.G. Williams.
Ron Williams.
Ron
yes.
Williams.
Wonderful fellow.
Now, can you tell me anything about him?
Oh, he was a great fellow, Ron. He used to have a business up in New Norfolk, a clothing thing, but he was a marvellous fellow, Ron. Real straight shooter. Gee, he was.
Clyde, I think he got a mention too, didn't he?
I think so.
Did he get mentioned in Dispatch?
I
I think he got a
So
mention.
he's got the oak leaves.
I don't know what it was, Ron.
Yeah.
I think I've read where he got
Yeah.
a mention. A very good soldier and a very good man to his troops.
Oh yes, he was well thought of.
He was only a young bloke. He'd
Yeah.
probably only be about 23 then, 22 or 23.
Okay. So what did he look like?
Very smart, dapper looking chap.
Yep. Always very well dressed, you know. He was, I don't know, how would you say it?
I didn't know him in civilian life.
Okay.
I only knew him as a soldier.
As a soldier? Yeah. Now, what did he look like? Was he tall, short, stocky?
Reasonable height, quite probably 5'7", 5, something like that.
Oh, I'd be about 5'9", 10.
Dark hair or light hair or?
Fairish coloured hair. But he was a real good bloke, Ron, I really was.
If they reminded you of anyone, just say as, did he look like anyone famous, or
No, just
does anyone remind you? Did he have any particular idiosyncrasies like a limp or a funny laugh or anything like that?
He was always in pretty good condition. I always thought a well structured fellow.
Yeah. Okay. Could ask pass another name past you. Warrant Officer B.H. Billett.
Oh, Basil Billett. He died recently. He was finished up as a commissioned Basil, but he was a ripper.
Mm-hmm.
Good sportsman, a good bloke, Basil.
You know any stories about him on Timor?
Oh, not so much on Timor, but after the thing, he was a very well thought of bloke, Basil.
Okay.
He died recently up the north coast here.
Okay.
Had to take charge of his platoon when these officers were killed, I think,
Yeah.
and did an amazing job apparently.
That was B Company. B Company.
Gatenby, was it?
Gatenby. Yep, you got Gatenby as well. Oh, okay. Billett. Can you describe him? What did he look like?
He was a very well built bloke. He's an athlete, they told me, in civilian life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Was he tall?
Not overly tall, no.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. Dark hair.
Dark hair.
Dark hair.
Yeah.
It's good.
Smart looking chap.
Yeah. So, what did he do as a profession?
Plumber, I think.
Plumber? Was he a tough chap?
Oh, I wouldn't have challenged him, I tell you.
Did he have a sense of humour at all?
He was very tough when he first came into Brighton. They had to drag him into Gearson on there, I think.
They steadied him up a bit. But
They told him to go and get rooted. He'd take him round the back and
try him out for size.
It's a tough lot. Okay. Madden.
Oh, gee, he was a soldier.
Captain Peter Madden.
He was our adjutant.
And he was our company, it says here.
Yeah, but he was the adjutant.
See,
When he finished up in the army, I think I told you he died in New Guinea. He took a drink of water and there was some sort of a snail in it and killed him.
oh god,
Is he going out like that?
jeez, yeah.
He was the one I told you about with the bugler. Sorry, cock can't play. I told you that, no?
No, that's how it's
Anyway, he used to tell the story himself at our reunions.
Mm-hmm.
This was when they first in Brighton camp, they were in tents.
Yep.
And he looked at the time this morning, he thought it was time the bugler sounded the valley, so along he goes, and he said there's a fellow asleep in the tent. So I give him a very gentle nudge with my foot, I pretty give him a good kick, and the bloke opened his eye and looked up, he said, "What's up, cock?" Straight out of Duntroon, you know. He said, "Come on, bugle, it's time to sound the valley." He said, "Sorry, cock, can't play her." Well, you can imagine straight out of Duntroon copying out the bugle in about a month. He was the best bugle ever had. He had plenty of practice.
Did any of Did Second 40 have any instruments? Did
We
you
had a band.
Oh, you had a
Oh,
proper
we had
band, you had a good band.
Oh,
did you ever play it in Timor at all? Play?
No, the instruments went into storage.
Okay, but you said the mouth organ. You had that story about the mouth
Oh,
organ.
the Jap had this.
Yeah,
Mickey Balcon could play that.
yeah.
Yeah, the band became stretcher bearers in action.
But we had a good band, mind you, we had.
Yeah. I'll run some names past you now. Lieutenant Stronach and Sergeant Crouch. They were sappers.
Yes, they weren't 40s, were they?
No, they were the engineers.
Yeah.
They were the ones who blew up the bridges. No? Did you ever meet them?
No, I didn't know.
Okay.
No.
Lieutenant T.R. McLeod,
Oh,
B Company.
Oh,
Yeah,
bloody
Rod
McLeod.
McLeod.
Deaf as a beetle.
Deaf.
Oh, Christ. Only because his old man was a colonel or something, he got a commission.
Really?
He was a drip.
Was he from Tasmania?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah?
yes.
Okay. What did he look like?
A very big fellow.
Big, fat or tall
Yes,
or
fattish, broad,
yeah, round face?
round-faced.
Was he a redhead? Was he redhead?
No, he was dark, I think, wasn't he? No?
Dark like me?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's the Highlander in him. Was he proud of being a Scot or was he a real Australian? Was he?
No, very proud of it.
Yeah.
What's the title you finished up with?
Oh,
It's in the paper. What's some of your titles back there?
Chief?
Chief or
something of the
something?
clan he was.
Oh, was it? Oh, good grief! He wasn't involved in the Clan McLeod Society, was he?
Like that, yeah, he was.
Oh, okay. My family was very heavily involved. I can find that one out.
Yes,
My
he had
pop
a
was like
he
the
had a write-up in
president.
the paper about it.
My pop was the president.
Never ever saw him after the war. He never come near us.
Richard Bones, I can't think of his first name, but he said when they went to action, he saw Rod McLeod say, where are they? And John said, the bloody bullets going around their ears everywhere. Oh, Rod McLeod, where are they?
So he was actually quite deaf, was he?
Oh,
Oh, really deaf.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how would people attract his attention if he's deaf?
Well, he wouldn't hear anyway. He'd have to guess what you said to him.
Would you used to talk behind his back and you?
Oh, to his face,
To
he
his
couldn't
face.
hear.
Oh, he was a drip.
So if he was in charge of B, he wasn't in charge of B Company, was he?
No,
he under off.
He had a platoon.
10 platoon, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Some of them said he was telling the platoon there what to do one day, and one bloke said, "Oh, go and get rooted." He said, "Yes, that's right, thank you."
I'll tell you.
So where did he end up?
Oh, he got back here. I don't know where he finished. Oh,
Most of the time in Java, I think.
Okay.
He had some knee trouble, didn't he? He was with Poitevin, remember?
He had his leg off and finished it.
Yes, he's amputated finally.
I'm actually been looking forward to saying this name, Lieutenant McLachlan, the intelligence officer.
no,
McCutcheon, yes.
McCutcheon, do you remember him?
Yes.
What was he like?
like the rest of the intelligence blokes, not worth a pinch of peanuts. Excuse my French.
He had good men in his
Section.
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know whether he was over bright or not.
Yeah. Did he ever come around and inform you of what was going on back at home?
He wouldn't know himself.
Really?
He couldn't tell you much.
I had the job of driving him around quite a bit when we first went to Timor.
Yeah.
And I had the job in the Northern Territory to drive him up when we went from Catherine up to Catherine up to Nunamar.
Okay. Yeah. What did he look like?
Average height.
Yeah.
Uh,
Dark hair.
he'd be an older man than most of us, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I couldn't remember what his hair was now.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Lieutenant Sharman.
Oh, Trav, yes, knew him well. He was, as I say, he was a good athlete. He won a Latrobe gift, good
Mhm.
footballer.
Yeah.
And to see him, as I say, his last 4 years, he was.
Oh, that's right.
He
Yeah.
was just, couldn't do a thing. He was just bedridden, couldn't do a thing for himself. It used to make me almost cry when I go down and see him, you know.
Mm.
Feeding him was like feeding a little bird.
Yeah, he
He
goes
was happy release when he died.
But he was a tough chap during
I
Timor.
He was a good officer, a good
Yeah.
bloke.
And I often think that way he ended up was due to his war service, because he always thought so much of his men.
Of course he did, yes, he was a good bloke too.
He'd always put his men ahead of himself.
Yeah.
Oh yes, he was a good bloke too, one of the best.
So he was one of the few ones who would put his men above himself,
Absolutely.
and all the other ones were pretty much like the Vale he got out. You didn't think much of Vale.
Who?
You didn't think much of Brigadier Vale.
God.
No. Veal.
Bill.
Veal.
Yeah.
6.
He was
Okay, Major Chisholm. Major Chisholm.
Major Chisholm, yes, he got back up where Burke was.
Mm-hmm.
And what the Sparrow Force commander has written, that he was quite good up there, quite a hand with him. He used to go around with the commander of the Sparrow, of the independent company up there.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually got home. I suppose he'd come home on one of those submarines or...
Yeah, well, we're one of the Catalans.
Okay.
Yeah, they got rid of Veal because while Veal was there, he overrode Colonel Spence, and then Major Chisholm, he's really good to us, and they sort of that upset the balance of rank too.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. What was he like on Timor? Chisholm? Just, I don't know. Just
No, I didn't know.
No, he's good to us.
Okay.
Anything he knew, he told us. And
okay.
I don't know when you were there. He's pretty close around when we split up there, Clyde. And he came to us, Jack Bryce, Peter Cannon, Batavia himself,
Yeah.
and he said you really got 3 choices. You can go into the Japanese prisoner of war, go bush, or try and get through to the independent company. But he said, remember the way the Dutch have treated the West Timorese, they've got no more reason to be friendly towards the Australians than they have the Japs, because the Dutch have treated us so harsh. But go into, if we get in the bush at Timor, we might find things different, which we did. But he passed on, anything he knew, he always passed on to us.
Okay. Run some more. A couple of names past you now. It's Lieutenant J.P. Laffey.
You don't know him?
Laffey?
Exactly.
Laffy.
Yeah, I think he's an independent company.
Yeah. Okay.
He used to bloke a climb up in the mountains in East Timor. He said he could see Australia. He went home pretty
You'd
good.
have to go up a bit high, wouldn't you?
What about Private Rowan Robinson?
Don't know him?
Okay. Captain. Oh, you might remember this name. Captain Callanan.
Yeah, I knew of him, but never ever met up with him.
Okay. Lance Sergeant Tomasetti.
Yeah, he is in East Timor. He's sort of lined up, and when we got rations stopped and that sort of thing, he'd line up the Timorese ponies and get them out to us.
Okay. Okay, let's try Sapper Willoughby.
He's another second independent company.
Okay.
He's a great organiser of transport group.
Okay.
Whenever he could.
Captain Parker.
So he was one that was there to help make up when in the war. He's around them parts, but I never met him to know what he's like or anything. But he was one there that helped the Sikhs.
When you went bush, were you with Clyde at all?
Yeah, we were just together,
Yeah.
and this always, I reckon, the best decision I made while I was in the army. Big Balkan comes to me and said, "Now, look, you ought to come with us. Trevor Sharman's a good loot. He'll look after us." I said, "No." Belton Keith, Peter Cannon, Jack Rice himself, we made up the 4 of us to go together. So we went, Clyde then went to the south coast, we went to the north coast, and they ended up prisoner of war, and we ended up getting out.
Yeah.
Just how lucky you can be.
Did you have any contact at all with the chaps at Usapa Basar, or did you ever sneak in and just... Did you pretty much stay in the south?
No. They did send... They sent one chap out to us to talk to... The Japs sent one bloke out.
Mm-hmm.
The thought was to talk to us to see if we would, surrender and come in. I can't think of his name.
Yes, Lance Corporal. Jack Frost sent him out. And if he didn't come back in a certain time, Jack was going to be
He chopped the head
severely dealt with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Black pudding or something, I don't know what it be.
Why were you ambushing and sabotaging a lot of the Japanese supply lines and stuff?
Yeah. So, it was Bruce, I can't think of that chap's name, but he came out and he talked with us and we said, no, we reckon we can keep going. And
Yeah.
But he had to turn around and go back.
I got his name at home.
So they used to send out these patrols from Usapa Basar to try and get you guys to surrender.
That's the only one I can remember coming through.
Did you hear news about what these chaps were up to?
The bits used to filter through, but we never knew what was right and what was wrong about it.
Okay.
You know,
So-
you get scraps of news at times.
Yeah. So what sort of sabotage did you used to do?
We blew bridges, we blew roads, we wait on them for ambushes. The Timorese are good to us. The Japs are about, they let us know, they'll nip and mine. We get to set up an ambush.
Did you? When did you see the Japanese? Were they on trucks going through the mountains, or
No, mainly on foot.
mainly on foot? So you never saw any of the POWs driving trucks or anything like that? No. Okay. So.
After we went bush, I think I only seen one vehicle all in the 10 months.
Yeah.
Lance Corporal Connors.
No, you sure it's Connors, right?
I think it might have been Connors.
Okay.
I've got the name at home, my papers.
Yeah. Okay. Here's a name: Dr. Brown and Dr. Gillies.
Dr. Brown is a marvellous fellow. He used to stutter badly.
He used to have a really bad stutter,
Oh yeah.
and he was a Tasmanian.
Yes.
He finished up and was drowned on a ship near Sumatra, I think.
Okay.
But Dr. Brown, we had a chap in our unit. He used to stutter badly.
Mhm.
He goes on sick brain. Brownie said, well, what's wrong with you? And he started, and Brownie was nearly going to have a piece of him. He said, you're mocking me. But he realised he stuttered the same. He the same bloke, Darcy Banks, could sing a beautiful song. He didn't stutter when he sang.
So Darcy Banks had a stutter, and which company was he in?
Oh, Darcy. I'm not sure.
Headquarter company.
I couldn't remember. I know Darcy, but I couldn't tell you what company.
Okay. So Dr. Brown was the chap who treated the Japanese.
Oh yes, after
Early days.
In the early days.
That air raid, and that's what saved us in Penfui, I reckon.
And was Dr. Brown like a prominent person in the camp?
Oh, he was a
Very well respected.
he was a good
Yeah.
fellow.
What did he look like?
Oh, just an average type of bloke.
Yeah.
He was fairly big, though, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Broad across the shoulders.
Yeah.
When we first went to the territory, we had a bout of dysentery.
Mhm.
Everybody had dysentery.
Yes.
Sick parade was going through. What's wrong with you? Dysentery, sir. Next one, don't tell me dysentery. The next bloke, no, sir. He said, I'm constipated. He said, congratulations. He had a sense of humour, old Brownie.
And there was another one of Brownie's old pal. He was always on sick parade. He goes on sick parade this day, and Brownie said, what's wrong with you? He said, please serve me urines like strong tea. He said, with or without milk. Oh, he was a comedian. You'll never forget those things.
Usually Ball was playing mob ball there, some game we had, and
No rules were there?
No, because we was getting broken fingers and bruised shins and all this sort of thing. At one stage, so the only bloody thing, you're not getting any is the bloody mob ball.
Yeah, you're going to bring the bloody ball, he said.
Did you
He
ever?
went down on one of the boats, didn't
Did
he?
you?
Yeah, on the way to Sumatra.
Did you have any games when you were on Timor? At Usapa Basar as a PW? Did you play any games or
I
tournaments
played basketball against the Nips.
against the Nips?
Some of the boys used to wrestle with them.
Really?
They were treated us pretty well there, I can tell you.
Who did you put the hoops up on
Yes,
up on the
we had
coconut
a
trees?
basketball thing there, but still, we'd let them win, but we wouldn't make it too obvious.
Was the ground hard enough to bounce a ball?
Oh, we had our own rules. We played basketball as we thought.
So it was pretty tough, was it?
Oh, Christ.
To the Japanese, did they?
Oh, they were all right.
But they were mostly short, weren't they?
You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
All different heights. The southern Japanese were little short fellas, but the further north you got, the fairer they got and bigger.
Yeah.
The Marines, their minimum height was 5'11". That's surprising, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's their minimum height for the Dutch, for the
They
Marines.
were all picked, weren't they?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
they were northern.
Yeah.
Not like the Italians, you see. Further south you get in Italy, the darker they get. As they get north, they get Europeanised.
So how many guards were guarding you guys?
Oh, we'll never know. We'll never know.
Did you see many?
Oh, you wouldn't see many at a time, but you knew there was a camp pretty close handy.
Did you hear that some of them were out in the bush somewhere in a box? And
Oh, but where would you go if you got out? There's nowhere to go, you see.
yeah. So when you went swimming, was there a guard there?
No.
Did any guards take pot shots at you for fun?
We were allowed. No, they wouldn't do that. If they had a pot shot at you, they'd shoot at you. They wouldn't give you one for fun.
Oh,
No, they were good.
yeah.
It was good there. Jimmy, one that you could keep yourself clean, and that was the main thing.
Mhm.
We always reckoned if you keep yourself clean, that was your ticket home.
Mhm. Okay. Any more jokes about Dr. Brown or
Oh, no.
any other stories about
You
him?
were there when you give us the lecture on VD?
Oh, yes. Early days in Brighton.
Yeah.
Somebody said, can you catch it off a toilet seat? Not a nice way to take a woman.
Fair enough, wasn't it?
He said there's another way for protection is used. I put for someone in who is a French letter. That's it.
Thank you when you go then.
Yeah. Thank you.
If you're correcting, you say thank you.
He couldn't get it out that day. Yeah.
So, Dr. Gillies?
Battery man.
Yeah?
I didn't know him till he came into Osapa Bazaar. I knew him, just seen him, but
So he was the heavy battery, Australian Royal Artillery. Okay. Yeah. What was he like?
as a doctor, I think he was quite good. I wouldn't be sure now. I knew he was Dr. Gillies, and everyone said he was quite good.
Mm-hmm.
See, all the doctors amalgamated
Yep.
when we went into Osapa Bazaar.
Yeah.
For a while, Brownie was trying to manage by himself there, and Dr. Poitevin came down from up at Chaplain.
Yeah. So how many people, was there a separate sick bay in the camp?
We made a set bay.
Yeah. And was it were there many people in it at one time? Initially there were like 130 odd.
I don't know what it would hold all the time. There was a few in there most of the time.
Mm-hmm. And you'd made the huts out of coconut palms and all that sort of stuff.
Yes, yes. That's where the engineers were handy because they
They were only thatched roofs, weren't
Yeah,
they? Yet they were quite...
they kept their own.
Yeah. Okay. So I've covered all the names I have written down here. We could go through all these, but I'm not going to. So I was just wondering, the day which you left the island, how were you told to, were you marched down to Kupang, or were you put on trucks to go down to Kupang?
I went down the truck. I don't know how the others went down.
Yeah. So you boarded the long boats and then jumped onto the Dietary Maru.
The old rust bucket, my gosh, she was a rust bucket. When they dropped those bombs up near Dili there, I thought she was going to fall to pieces.
So how many people were put into the boats, and did you have to climb nets into the
Oh, as many
ship?
as the damn thing would hold, you know.
Piloting like bloody sheep.
How many holes did the ship have? Like 3 or 4, or?
Oh, about 4, I thought about 4.
Yeah.
Oh, gee, she wasn't any comfort, I tell you.
Do you remember the date that you left on the Dietary Maru, just offhand?
Oh, early September, about the 10th of September, I think.
Okay, that helps me a bit. And were there many? Did you notice anything about the ship? Was there ammunition on the decks or in the holds or
Right,
a car?
No, and all I know that there's plenty of rust on the bloody thing.
Oh, there's one thing I've got to ask. When you were at Asapa Basar, did many of the Australian Air Force guys come over and bomb?
Didn't bomb us, but we saw them come over a few times.
Yeah, and that's when they shot down McAllister. Did they shoot them? Did they shoot them down with the boffers from my granddad's battery?
No, they.
Couldn't tell you, I don't reckon so.
I think it was a zero. Bloody.
Did the Japanese ever use Penfui Airfield for their Air Force?
Oh yes.
Oh yes, that's the reason they wanted that.
They captured the Air Force.
Doing all the raids from Darwin from there after.
That's the reason they wanted Timor and Amb on their air forces, their aerodromes on them. You see.
Do they to rebuild the runway and all that sort of stuff? Or
Oh, there wasn't much damage to the runway. They
wasn't much
picked it up.
damage at all?
No.
What about the buildings? They're all.
Oh, the
Line up.
building wouldn't have mattered. They weren't much use to us even, were they, Jim?
Did you see many planes at Penfui? Japanese planes at
Not from
Penfui?
where we were. You couldn't see it. You were a fair way away from the head
Yeah.
road.
So so there wasn't much damage at all done to the runway.
No.
Okay. So yeah. So I'm just wondering. I was wondering how many planes left Penfui to attack Darwin, and
No, we wouldn't.
you wouldn't know that. Okay. So you arrived at Kopang. You loaded onto the boats, and then you had to climb the nets onto the ship,
Yeah.
and then you just showed the hold, and you looked down, and
We had to get down as best as we could. Bits of ladders down into them. Yeah.
and they.
They were comfortable, you know, nice mattresses and all down there. Yeah. Business. Thought I was standing. Sorry about that.
Okay. So there were like 500 in a hold.
As many as they could
many-
jam in.
many they could jam in.
And were there toilets in the hold or up on the
Yes. A big round
Tub.
tub.
deck? Okay.
That
Did-
was in the centre of the floor, and she'd splosh and she'd slosh, and what with sweating
Very
bodies.
hygienic.
So you were sleeping on top of each other, weren't you, basically?
Actually, yeah.
There was no bedding at all in there, just a
No.
metal
There was
hulk.
no room to lie down.
Okay.
You'd sit with your knees up under
Was
your
it
chin.
was it hot in the
Slanting
hold?
hot.
Did they close the holds?
Sometimes they put a funnel down, you know, a canvas funnel down for
A
you.
bit of air down, but not very often.
So it was very hot in there.
Oh yes.
Did the Japanese guards ever come down into the hold, or were they just up there looking down?
They wouldn't come down among us, mate, I tell you.
So,
Just looking down all the time.
so that was the Daiichi Maru. Were you both on the?
No.
All three of you on Daiichi
I
Maru?
wasn't. I was on the middle boat, the one that went first to Surabaya.
We were.
Oshida Maru.
Yeah.
Hmm?
The Oshida Maru.
I got the name at home, but I couldn't tell you what it is.
Or the Singapore Maru? No.
No.
You know what Maru stands for, don't you?
Yeah, it's ship.
God of the sea.
Yeah.
We went to Surabaya first,
Mm-hmm.
and then up to Batavia.
Okay, so you took the train.
No, boat up to Batavia.
Okay.
We went by train.
You went by train.
Mm.
Now,
And that was one good thing. The Dutch women were throwing food and that to us. They had more guts than the fellas.
so that you're on the train going to Batavia, and the Dutch were throwing food
The
to
Dutch women were when you went through places. No,
you
they,
through places. Okay.
Yeah, they didn't worry about the bloody nips of women.
Did
They
you ever
did.
hear about that serious train crash between Surabaya? Okay. Did you hear about the Battle of the Java Sea? Did you know about the minefields north of
No, I
Surabaya?
didn't know that.
Because my grandfather, he actually went. He said that it was really strange. He went between Batavia and Timor by boat, but he said it was strange that they stopped at Surabaya, and he said there must have been a major battle there. Of course, it was the Battle of the Java Sea.
Yeah, the area there, I'd never seen so many sunken boats. They lit us up out of the hold when we got to Surabaya.
So when you went to Surabaya, you saw the sunken ships everywhere.
Oh, they were everywhere. How they got through them to the moorings, I don't know.
Wow.
They
You
were-
see any mines and stuff?
I don't know whether they mined or what they were, or how they got through there, but she was very slow going through the boat.
Were they all British ships and Australian ships, or can you tell what type they were?
Australian and Dutch quite probably.
Yeah.
I don't think the British had many ships out here then, did they?
No.
So you saw it was carnage, was it? It was just-
Absolutely.
So that was when you were being unloaded at Surabaya that you saw all the ships
No, we
everywhere.
weren't unloaded, we're still on the boat. They kept us on the boat for 2 days there,
Okay,
but let us up on deck.
up on deck. So when you're at Surabaya, you're allowed up on deck,
Yeah.
and from there you saw all the ships everywhere, all over the place.
Yeah, sunken ships everywhere.
Were you allowed on deck between Surabaya and Batavia?
I don't think. I think we were back down the hold again.
Okay, yeah. So how many ships do you reckon you saw? From the...
I wouldn't know. I reckon a dozen or 15 or more there.
What was Surabaya like?
We never got off the boat.
What could you see of Surabaya? What was it?
There seemed to be a terrible lot of damage there, bomb damage.
Okay, yeah, okay. So you're on the other ship, but you were on the Dietary with okay. Now, when you got on board, did you basically march straight into the hold? Was it the front hold, middle hold, back hold?
I was in the third from the bow.
From the bow. Okay, so did you ever see any important people being loaded onto the ship?
No way, no.
Did you see many Japanese soldiers being loaded onto the ship?
Not a great number. They didn't put many on the ships.
So there was only you in the hold, so you stayed down there the whole time.
Oh yes.
So you knew all you could see was daylight.
You're lucky to see that.
So when did you see? So you went all the way to Dili, and you saw the Hudson bombers fly over.
Yeah, they bombed us there, and they.
Did you ever go up on deck to see?
No, by God we didn't. But they frightened the hell out of us. The dust and the rust that was flying about, you wonder.
You actually could make out that there were Hudson bombers flying over, and all you could see was the hold, the roof of the hold.
Yeah, you didn't. Well, there wasn't much to see, was there? You know?
Yeah. Did you see what's being unloaded from the ship?
No.
Okay. So, but how close were those bombs as
They
landing?
were too bloody close for comfort, I tell you. You could feel the jar of them. They were pretty close.
Was there water coming into the
Oh no,
splashes
no.
of?
I suppose it was a couple hundred yards away. It was
Yeah.
closest, but that was close enough for me.
What was your reaction knowing that they were Australian?
I thought, well, friendly fire again. Because when we won them, we didn't see them.
Did you see? How many do you reckon there were?
Oh, I just wouldn't have a clue because it was a raid and it was finished, wasn't it, Jim?
Yeah. Did you count how many explosions there were, or just heaps
Oh,
of them?
Christ, no, I was too frightened to count them.
Okay.
Yeah, the bloke that wasn't frightened wasn't there.
Okay. Between Kopang and Dili, was there any outbreaks of disease?
No.
So everything was pretty fit. You were being fed with rice, right? What were you fed between Kopang and
I don't
Dili?
know whether we had anything to eat, did we?
I don't think
I don't think we had anything to eat.
But it was very hot in the hole between.
Oh, God, it was terrible.
And did you guys basically stripping down to
Well,
just down to
you
the
know what
waist?
clothes we had. You can imagine the clothes we'd had.
Yeah.
Crikey.
Okay. So between Dili and Surabaya, do you remember anything between Dili and
The
Surabaya?
only thing that I know that the weather was fine.
Yeah.
That was the only thing that saved us. It had been rough weather. I don't know how we'd have got on feeding.
And you told me a story about a monkey on board the ship.
No, Lloydie was telling me about
No.
the monkey.
The Japs had pet monkeys,
Yes.
and they used to throw them over, tie a rope round them, throw them over the back and drag them through the water. Up
Yep.
close to the prop where she's all swirling up, you know.
Yeah.
And the monkeys would be screaming their head off, poor little beggars.
And
then
that was-
haul them back in, and they'd laugh to some more of these Japs.
They were suggesting.
Did any of them get it stuck in the propeller?
I never saw any, but I reckon they must have been mighty close. All of them seemed to have a pet monkey. Came from Timor.
Well, monkeys had
Did you ever see any monkeys on Timor?
Oh yes.
Did you ever play with them or anything like that?
We had them in the hut, but you had to be careful because if you left your watch down, they'd grab it.
Yeah.
Anything at all, they'd take up to the rafters.
Did you ever see you said that all the Japanese had a monkey. Was that on Timor?
Yes.
Now, and they were cruel to them on Timor.
Oh, I didn't see them on Timor so cruel to them because their quarters weren't near ours on Timor.
Okay.
But this is on the boat that they had them.
But you could play with the monkeys, but once they were near the Japanese, they'd go all funny and in fear of their lives and all that sort of stuff. Or were the monkeys afraid of just the Japanese, but not of you?
Oh, we seemed to get on all right. I didn't think, well, that's that pinch everything we had.
Yeah.
You couldn't leave a banana out or anything like that. They'd grab it and go for their lives up into the rafters of the hut.
Yeah. Yeah. My granddad said a similar story about them. It's Hitler called the Japanese trained monkeys, ironically. Granddad couldn't figure out why the monkeys were afraid of the Japanese. Okay, so you arrived in Surabaya and you got off the ship and took the train. Did you have to march to the
It was
railway
only
station?
it was only a short distance across, sort of thing.
What were the locals like when they saw you being unloaded from the ship?
Oh, the locals didn't worry us, but I always think of how brave those Dutch women were that were trying to throw food to us.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't worry about them. It's not like
On
the
the
men. The men were terrified of them, but the women, they were good.
Mm-hmm.
They had more guts than the blokes.
Yeah.
Oh, gee, they did.
Was Surabaya pretty much bombed? Pretty damaged?
No, there wasn't much damage there, and we were in an old prison down there, pretty close to the water.
How long were you there for?
Oh, September to early January.
That was at Surabaya?
Yeah.
No, that wasn't at Batavia?
No, Surabaya. And we used to go out, our main job there was filling oil drums.
Okay, so
By gee.
you took the train from Surabaya to Batavia, then you went back to Surabaya?
Yeah.
Okay. So...
But it wasn't a bad spot, but our own fellas in Singapore were terrible to us. We arrived there in the clothing we were taken in action with.
Mm-hmm.
A Red Cross ship had been there about 3 weeks before, and all the blokes in Singapore were fitted out in good clothes.
Yeah.
They wouldn't give us a thing. They said, "You're in transit, you're not entitled to it."
Cool.
We couldn't get out of the rotten place quick enough.
Yeah.
They treated us worse than anybody, our own troops there. Old Brigadier Callaghan, he called us the Java rabble.
Yeah.
Oh, Christ, he was an old dog.
What were you described the Dutch woman throwing the food to you on the train between Surabaya and Batavia? When you arrived at Batavia, you went to Tanjong Priok, and you're at a camp there.
Yeah,
Was that when you were separated from the Akak battery?
I imagine. So they went to bicycle camp, I think, didn't they?
Oh, they went to Makasura.
Makasura, yes.
They joined up with the B troop, which they left at Malang.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So, do you remember seeing them go, or
No, I don't remember seeing that, no.
So,
We were all too interested in keeping ourselves alive, I think.
how far was Tanjong Priok from the railway station at Batavia?
Oh, just half a mile, I suppose.
So you just marched.
Just wandered in groups.
Did you still march in formation to the?
We got there anyhow we could. Didn't much colour down. Our marching days are over, like that thing, you know. Your roving days are over.
Yeah. Oh dear.
But as I say, that was a tragedy when young poor old Viv Dolan fell over in the showers and killed himself.
Mm.
I knew he had a fracture of the skull.
Yeah.
That was in Tanjong, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Before I joined the army, I had a brother. We worked on the floating bridge out at Hobart.
Yep.
And this particular day, he went ashore in a dinghy, and I was with him, and he had to bring a new wire rope out to the boat. And he was pulling the rope down, and the big end of a wooden pile fell on his back of his head.
Yeah.
I got him ashore, and when I got him ashore, there was like a thick vomit come out of his mouth. And that was a sign of a fractured skull, and Dolan was the same. And when he vomited just like Trevor, and I said, well, you better get the doctor to see these blokes. He's got a fracture at the base of the skull, and he had it too. Never forgotten that. He died, he was dead next morning.
I've heard that story from someone else,
Yeah, that's what happened.
and it was from one of the RAF boys I've interviewed,
Could have, yeah.
and they were on the docks as well.
Mm.
It's amazing. And he said it was in Australia. I think this guy might have met him, a guy called Bill Rose.
Could have done too.
Yeah. He was one of the guys who never managed to get their planes out of the boxes at Batavia. They were captured unarmed.
Fair enough.
So hey, so when did you go to Singapore?
We arrived at Singapore on the 3rd of January 43.
43.
And on the 26th of January 43, we were up at our jungle camp way up in Thailand, ready to start our section of the railway.
Okay.
And on the 26th of December 44, we came down from way up North Thailand to one of the big base camps.
Okay. Now, when you arrived at Singapore, did you have to march all the way to Changi Barracks?
Oh,
Do you remember that?
I didn't.
A lot of people remember the march to Changi Barracks, the 15-mile.
no, I don't know. I don't think I had. I don't think I went.
Did you ever go to Changi Barracks
I don't think so.
or Changi Jail?
Yeah, not the Changi Jail, what they had
The barracks.
the big barracks.
The old British barracks.
Yes.
Now, did you see the Japanese flag below the Royal Ensign?
Yes, I think they had Japanese flags everywhere.
Yeah.
Although it was, we were left quite alone,
Mhm.
the guards there.
Were they
Didn't worry as
Sikhs?
much.
Were they Indian Sikhs?
Sikhs, yes, yes, great big turban blokes.
Yeah, and they were nasty pieces of work.
They were.
Yeah, I've heard stories about those Sikhs.
Yeah.
They used to fight. They used to be part of the Indian Army, but they swapped sides.
Yeah, swap sides, yeah.
Do you remember anything about them besides?
No, I wasn't in Singapore only for around about 3 days, I think.
Okay.
The same, we couldn't get out the robbing place quick enough the way they treated us.
Did
Just
you?
imagine we were prisoner of war and they wouldn't give us any clothing.
Yeah.
And our stuff was 11 months old and we'd been through action in them.
Do you remember them counting you on the docks, or you swimming through this pool of disinfectant before getting into the ship?
No.
No.
No way.
Okay. Yeah. So, what do you think of the Japanese since the war?
If I go down the street now and I see when I feel the hair at the back of my neck rising, I can never ever forget or forgive them. Not for me, I got back.
Yeah.
But there's so many of my mates could and should have got back. They'd have only treated them just decently, you know.
Yeah.
They had the material and wouldn't give them medication, wouldn't give us a thing.
Yeah. They had the Red Cross parcels as well. They didn't give you.
They lived on them, and they were, after the war, I reckon there was big warehouses full of it, and then it had gone bad, and they had to throw it away.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
So you arrived back. You were liberated from your camp, and
We were at a place called Nakamnai in Thailand when the
Yep.
war finished,
mm-hmm.
and I'll never forget they dropped some stuff to us from planes, and
Mhm.
when the English had come in, they'd drop a smoke flare first
Yep.
of all and landed it right in an area.
Mm-hmm.
The Yanks had come in, they'd land one here and the other would be 3 or 4 mile away. The
Yeah.
blooming natives got more than we got.
When your wife, when your
I
wives,
wasn't married, no.
you weren't married. Were you married?
No, no.
You're all single men. So when you arrived at Hobart on the ship,
No, we came down. Burnie, in the Norwest Open, we came
Yeah.
down by bus to Hobart.
you were greeted by your family.
No, my family home waiting for me. They had
They were already waiting at home.
yeah,
What was their first reaction when they saw you?
well, just relief for seeing me again, I think.
Notice anything different about you?
They said you're a bit thin. I was under 10 stone and my normal weight was 11.4.
And you're pretty tanned.
Oh, I know I was too thin to be tanned. But it was just the relief of getting home, you know.
Oh, okay.
I've often wondered about myself, you know, when you come home, what did happen?
Yes, everything was strange.
I'll tell you the funny thing that happened, we came by bus to, just before we got to Claremont, and then we got into cars there. But Billy Kelly, one of my mates who lived at Claremont, his sisters were waiting for him, they ran into him and knocked him head over turkey. Poor old Jimmy. But it was marvellous to get back and be among your own, you know. You could never put it into words.
And since then, you feel like you've been forgotten, your battalion.
Of course we've been forgotten. There's nobody will know. They don't want to know about the action we had on Timor. When we got back, they told people, don't ask them questions, you might upset them.
Get a job and get to work.
If they had have asked some of our boys, 2 or 3 of them finished the rest of their life in a place called Royal down home that was for, you know, mentally insane. They'd have lived a normal life, but they lived their full life there through not being allowed to get it off their chest. I don't mind telling people. 1995 they got some of us to go around and lecture some of the high schools on their experiences. And I gave some of the young ones a hell of a shock, you know, the things I could tell them.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Well, thank you very much. We've got 3 seconds left. Anything else you'd like to say?